present you an opportunity to sit in a room with professionals that look like you, that speak your language, that are interested in building our community. We have we have great panelists speaking today. We have attorneys, we have tax specialists, and we have insurance agents here to discuss about how we could secure our financial literacy. We're going to embark on several questions on how to navigate estate planning, probate, the difference between wills and trust, and how to secure your assets for your future. I'd like to introduce our amazing host, our panelists. We're going to start with our first attorney right here, Jadina Gustav. Yes.
It is? You guys heard me? Oh, good evening. I'm Jadina Ingasop. Where should I stand? The middle? Okay. Here, all right. I'm Jadina Ingasop, Esquire. I am a legacy advocate. I'm an estate planning attorney, and I also serve as a small business general counsel for small businesses. What we do is we provide everywhere from starting your business all the way to having litigation within your business, preparing your contracts. But for estate planning, we talk about legacy planning. So obviously we're going to get to those questions, but wills, trusts, tax planning, those are all of the things that's included with our services as estate planning attorneys.
Our next speaker will be Tamaris Dubbard Wilson. Grab us right there. I'm going to grab mine.
Sac passe. Well, my name is Tamara Stupard Wilson, and I have a law firm called Atlanta State Attorneys. I've been practicing for over 10 years now. I have two offices, one in Atlanta and one in Cobb County. I have family here in Gwinnett. So what we do is similar to what our other attorney does. I do estate planning. I do low-end estate planning, meaning basic things as far as just how to get started, what you need to do right away. But I also do some very sophisticated estate planning where we talk about trust, right? Generational wealth, charitable remainder trust, how to make that life insurance last for a lifetime. We also do probate litigation. So if someone passes away, they have a will, you still have to file that will with the court. I will assist you with that. Let's say somebody passes away and they don't have a will, I will assist you with that process as well. What about when something happens while you're alive? You get in a car accident, or mom gets older and gets dementia. I will assist you with guardianship and conservatorship. I serve as a fiduciary where I will be the administrator or the conservator if you need me to manage the money for the children if they lose their parents, or for the older person that's now incapacitated and can't make decisions on their own. I'm also a tax attorney. So a lot of times I will deal with all the tax issues that's in the estate, okay? And we'll talk about tax implications when you do certain things. A lot of times we like to get IRAs and 401ks, right? That could be a really good thing. But sometimes the way that you give it to your family member could be detrimental and it incurs a lot of taxes. So we'll talk about that today. So my goal is to ensure that our community have conversations to allow our children and our children's children to have everything that we worked hard for go to them someday. Okay, that's what I'm here for. Mm-hmm.
Our next speaker will be Lukens Rivel.
Comment nous y est tout le monde, nous bien? Hello, everyone. So my name is Lukens Reville. I'm a tax attorney here in the state of Georgia. I'm an associate at a firm called the Moore Law. If you have any questions about taxes, if you need any help with tax planning, let's say the IRS sends you a notice and you don't know how to respond to that notice, and I'm the one for you. I'm the guy to represent you and to assist you with that. So the main reason why I got into tax law is because I once heard the story about this notorious criminal whom you guys may know called Al Capone back in the 1920s and 30s. The IRS took him down not because of the crimes he was actually committing, but because of the taxes he didn't pay. So if you know the IRS can take down such a powerful criminal, then you're definitely going to need adequate representation to defend you when the IRS comes for you. So if you guys have any questions about taxes, I'm the one for you to talk to. And today we'll be discussing about taxes in regards to estate planning as well. And I look forward to that conversation. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker will be Dr. Dorothy Christomo.
Good evening.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We would not be speaking about estate planning if we cannot speak about healthcare, right?
Yes.
So I'm Dr. Dorothy Crisostomo, and I am the CEO of You First Healthcare. I do have a degree in mental health and in family nurse practitioner. And also I am the chairwoman of the Haitian American Nurses Association. And today we're going to be focusing on advance directives and how that implicates with estate planning. If there are any questions, I'll be here to answer. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Levy Dorsley.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Bonsoir tout le monde. Bonne monde là kay moi comment nous y. So ma parle en créole avant and I'll do a little bit of translation, okay? So pour le monde qui pas connaît moi non c'est Levi Dorsley et moi j'ai une history in healthcare parce que toute la vie moi et bien avant me fait moi dans healthcare. Actually, yeah, I've been working in healthcare for about 28 years. I know I look young, but I have the beard to show that. So I have loved it. So I've come to a point where after I've worked for about 8 years with one of the insurance companies, Anthem Blue Cross, I found out so much that was right under my nose I didn't know before. And I thought maybe my people need to know this. So I decided I was going to do health insurance. So I got licensed as a health insurance agent. So I dedicate myself to working with people, help you with healthcare needs, insurance. So si son business person, si someone, même si vous travaillez avec un employé, there are ways that I can actually help you. I don't have to get paid. I just want to make sure that you're in a good position. Get Obamacare, Medicare. Donc, besoin de make sure que tout le monde est en position que ou pas payer trop, mais ou payer pour son besoin, and you are well covered. So we're here to answer any questions related to estate, well, that may affect and impact estate planning. So we will be here and answer any of those questions. Merci.
And our final speaker will be Hervé Dor.
I'm an agency owner with American Family Insurance, and I just want to share with you guys a personal story of why I'm here today. So when I was a sophomore in high school, my father had a stroke that left him mentally and physically handicapped. And when he came here to the United States, he never thought that there would be a day that he couldn't work to provide for himself or his family. So ultimately, he had no plan. In 2016, a week after my younger brother graduated high school and was getting ready to embark on his journey to his next phase of life, he passed away from sickle cell disease. And again, no family expects for something like this to happen, so we had no plan. 2 years later, in 2018, 2 months after my older brother got his first big boy job working for the state of Georgia, he passed away. This was a month before he was able to get his employee benefit package. So again, we had no plan. And after that point, I was like, yo, enough is enough, right? I got to make sure that I have a plan for myself and so that everybody around me is good. And that led me to being an agency owner with American Family Insurance. Shout out to my sales leader who's and God blessed me to be in a position to help everybody put a plan for themselves. And I do that with life insurance, whether that's permanent or term life insurance. And I want everybody to leave here today with some sort of plan, whether it's with me, with all the speakers that are here today, so that way families don't have to go through the type of financial burden that happens when the unexpected happens.
All right, without further ado, we'll go ahead and start with the questions. Wills versus trust. What are the main differences between wills and trust, and how does one determine which one is more suitable for their situation?
All right. As I start, I don't want to forget to say that I am representing, though I'm a member of the church, but I am representing the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Georgia. And as a representative, this is a part of what we call Know Your Rights. So we were very happy to collaborate because we want the community to know what is important and make sure that our legacy. Oh, okay, yes, yes. Okay, perfect. Oh,
Avant de commencer, excusez-moi, qui besoin d'entendre, la question là où me posée, il dit will and trust, qui différence qui gagne entre will and trust, qui genre un monde qui connaît qui est là qui plus bon pour lui. So, même du will and trust là, m'a répété terminologie en anglais pour nous parce que là dans code là c'est mot savon. Will and trust, qui est là qui plus bon. On will avec on trust. So avocat lui même a bonne définition, moi même a traduire pour nous. Mais m'a prêté dans terminologie anglaise pour nous comprendre terminologie à moi pour qui est-ce qui est plus bon pour nous.
Thank you.
okay. All right. So, right?
Go ahead.
All right. So, does anyone raise your hand if you heard of a will? Raise your hand if you heard of a trust. Seems like it's the same amount of people. Awesome. Okay, so a will and a trust, let me first say the similarities, and then I can tell you what's different. So with a will and a trust, they both, are you going?
No, go ahead.
Am I going to? Okay, I don't want to give too much, because then I can flip, okay? Je peux parler en créole too, ça pas un problème. OK, pas de
problème. Commencer à faire
problème.
en créole, après ça, on va traduire en anglais.
Okay.
La côté moins, it's been less of a time.
Okay, pas de problème. All right. So, a will and a trust, yo fait même bagay, qui ça yo fait ensemble. Ça ou gagné, it gives you the ability to give it to someone else. So you're saying that I have these assets, I want to give the assets to somebody else. When we say asset, qui ça veut dire? Ça veut dire l'argent gagné, l'argent assurance, l'argent dans canal banco, caillou ou gagné, sou gain jewelry, bag, everything that you have. Ça, tout ça, moi gagné. Et puis, kounya, m'vle di ki moun ap recevoir tout ça m'gagné. OK? Yo défait ça. Will avec trust, yo défait ça. On l'autre bagay, yo kito fait. Yo kito identify who is going to talk for you. Ki moun ap pale pou ou. Si ou pa la encore, who is going to be the person to make sure tout ça ou di ki ou vle passe, moun sa fait si sa yo passe. Okay? They both do that. All right? However, with a will, your family member that you leave will still have to go to court. Okay? So they will still have to let the judge know, my family member left this will. This will, I want you to do everything that's in the will. With that, you have to pay the court fees. It is public information. So moun ka ale na court pou yo we ki sa ou te kite, ki debt ou te genyen, because when you have a will and you open up a probate, meaning it still has to go to court, you open up a probate, then it becomes a public process, okay? But remember, the will allows you to give things. Now, what's the difference with the trust? With the trust, you are still identifying what you have. However, you now have a private process to transfer what you have to somebody else, okay? You also are able to control the assets more with a trust than with a will. Ça veut dire. With a trust, you are basically saying, m'gen kaisa, et puis m'vle pour kaisa rete nan famille. Si on moun ap van kaisa, for yo fait 1, 2, 3. Ou ka di n'importe ça, ou vle, and you control that. With a will, le ou mette kaila, ou kite kaila, ou pa ka fè en pile, parce que ça ou di nan will lan, juge la just gade, moun yo pran li, yo fè sa, yo vle avel. With a trust, there's control. Le yo recevoir l'argent, ou ka di, le li l'âge 18 ans, m'vle pour payer collège pour li. M'vle pour payer kai, books, all of those things. Lely graduate college, or she's 21 or he's 21, m'vle pour yo get on machine, or si yo di yo vle on business, for yo get on financial advisor, for your, meaning you can put things in place with a trust that you cannot do with a will. A will is more limited, and it only takes effect when you die, versus a trust, it can start giving benefits right now while you're still alive, and that's just the main things. I don't know if you want to add a little bit more.
Yes, in addition, with the trust, when you give it to your children and you pass away, it creates a credit shelter, meaning if your children owe credit cards, debt, have to pay people, if they go through divorce, they can't come take the money from the trust, because the trust owns the money, the children don't own the money, okay? And with a will, you're given a complete gift. So when you say that house is for my son, that's it, right? But in the trust, you can say it's for my son, but then when my son pass away, I want the rest of the money to go to my grandson. And that's how it stays in the family. You can say, I want the house to stay in there for 5 years so that it can grow, so that they don't just get that house and sell it right away, right? And over time, you can say, hey, when important things happen in their lives, like they get married, they have children, you know, when you really want to give them something, but you're gone and you can't do it yourself, well, that trust can continue to do it for you over time, okay? And the other thing about a trust, there's different types of trust, okay? There's not just one type. So I know you guys always hear trust, but what trust makes the best sense for you? Sometimes you have a sick child. Maybe they have autism. Maybe, you know, they can't take care of themselves, and you worry about that. You say, when I leave, who's going to take care of my sick child, right? You can create something called a special needs trust that can take care of your child for life, and they can still get benefits while they're alive, and then you don't have to worry about them while they're gone. You can get a life insurance trust where that money goes in there for the children or whoever, your loved ones, right? And then that money doesn't get spent right away. You can say exactly how you want the money to get spent, okay?
So a qualified income, the same thing with the special needs trust. So let's say that now you're Medicare eligible. You want to secure the money. You don't want to lose your supplemental benefits from the government, but you still want your money to be able to be secured. I still want to be able to use it, but the government is going to say you make too much money. So a trust gives you, the qualified income trust gives you the ability to still have that money for your use, but I don't lose my government benefits as well. So there are a lot of different trusts that we have.
Can you translate that in Creole, the last part?
Oh, okay. So, denye pati nou te di, c'est un qualified income trust. C'est là où rive nan yon l'âge que ou ka recevoir Medicaid. Sa Medicaid di, si ou get trop l'argent, yo pa ba ou bénéfice. Mais, sa yo rele trop l'argent, pas l'argent vraiment. Parce que it depends on your state. Mais yo ka di 2300 combien? Sou kembe sa nan kanel bankou, chaque mois, ou pas utiliser ça, kounya ou gen trop l'argent. Nous connaissons pour médical, ça pas rien, right? Pour tout bilio, tout bagay, ça pas rien. Mais, si ou pas utiliser, gen yon pile moun connaît, les clients yo vini, yo gen un savings account et puis yo quitté en $5,000, $20,000, $30,000 en savings account, y a dit ou gen trop l'argent ou pas doué recevoir Medicaid. Et puis ça yo gen un 5-year look back period. So, si vous connaissez, c'est peut-être ça nous là pour nous parler de sous bail comme ça. Parce que si vous connaissez ou venir dans l'âge pour Medicaid, 5 ans. So 50 ans. Avant, 5 years before, you want to make sure that you're already planning. Et puis si vous get en là, gen bagay nou ka fait, we can create the qualified income trust pour ça pas un problème pour vous as well.
Il t'a parlé de différents
The
types
special
de
Yes.
trust qui gagnent. Est-ce que comme vous savez avocat, je me dis dans terme créole, parler dans terme avocat. Yeah, you said something about
Oui, okay, all right, no, that's fine. So ma dire, yes, ma dire.
She knows that the terms more
Oui,
than I do.
oui. Okay, so ça li te di gen qualité different kinds of trust. Yon se special needs trust. Si ou gen un ti moun, mais li se un ti moun ki gen en maladie, et puis maladie ça a continuer les li vini en adulte. Faut faire un special needs trust. Ça veut dire ou ka still quitter l'argent pour lui. Mais même bagay avec qualified income trust là, y a dit si li recevoir trop l'argent, yo pas prend soin li pas ka joindre benefits gouvernement by pour lui. So là ou fait special needs trust et puis on bagay toujours dit client yo, faut di famille ça tout. Parce que grand yo, ma tante yo, marraine, parraine, yo vle quitter un bagay pour ti moun nan. Si vous connaissez un moun qui gen en maladie que gouvernement connaît maladie ça et puis recevoir bénéfice pour maladie ça, faut dire yo parce que l'argent passé dans yon special needs trust parce que y a dit oh li pa get income. Si li recevoir nan men li, that mean li get income. So c'est ça li tap di the special needs trust. Li te di assurance. It's a assurance trust, is how we call it, insurance trust. Si vous quittez en l'argent, ou quittez l'argent dans trust, et puis c'est trust qui prend soin de moun yo, okay? And then, I think that's oui, ok, on l'autre bagay, là ou fait un trust, ou pas gen ça dans yon will, mais là ou fait un trust, gen un bagay qui relè credit shelter, ok, qui la dans trust là. Ça veut dire, même si moun nan, ou te quitté un moun comme yon beneficiary, nan trust là, ti moun nou, si c'est ti moun nou, si yo gen en l'argent qui te pour yo, creditors, so si Capital One kai on bagay, yo di moun dwe men l'argent, yo pa ka mette men yo nan trust la. Okay? Mais si vous just quitte nan will et puis yo recevoir nan men juge la, yo ka vini et puis yo ka prendre l'argent ça parce que li nan men on. Le on bagay nan trust, ça veut dire li pa pam jusqu'à ce que I take a deposit out, right? Jusqu'à ce que trustee mette l'argent nan même. So tout ça qui nan trust ça pa pam. L'aime recevoir même s'il a divorcé, tout ça, li pa joindre, yo pa ka toucher l'argent qui n'a trust pour petit tout.
At the end of the event, we'll have a Q&A session, so please save your questions for later. I know we're going to give a lot of information, so at the end, we'll have ample time to answer those questions. All right, our next question will be navigating probate. Can you explain probate process and provide advice on how individuals can prepare their estates to simplify this process?
All right, simplifying the probate process. And what I'll do is stop in between and allow you to translate. Okay. Particularly here in Georgia, you still have to deal with the probate process, meaning you have to go to the probate court and file a petition, okay? So a lot of people believe when I have a will, I don't have to deal with probate. It doesn't automatically happen just because you have a will. You have to take that will, you have to give notice to all the beneficiaries, the people that's going to be receiving something from the will, and then you have to file that petition with the court. Once the court receives it, then they have to give notice. They have to tell everyone, hey, they just filed this will like she just talked about earlier. And then the court gives everybody an opportunity to object to it, meaning maybe they don't agree with it. Maybe they said somebody created the will and it wasn't the right person. Maybe there was fraud involved. So they give the family an opportunity to say, is it real? Is it correct? and then they appoint the administrator or the executor of the estate.
OK. So, le on moun gen on will, et puis wap commencer probate process. Même si yo gen will ou si yo pa gen on will, right? Probate process is more le moun pa fait plan, mais yo, for yo pran will lan, or si yo pa gen on will, famille a on moun ap prale nan court la, yap di moun sa yo mouri, ya buy the death certificate. Le yo di moun nan mouri, court la ap buy tout moun on notification, right? It's going to let everybody know. Let nous dit tout le monde. Et pas seulement famille, parce qu'il dit, faut ou faire toute famille, même si vous parlez même moun nan. Même si moun n'a pas parlé avec maman ou papa pour quelques années, ou still doué, tout le monde qui en air, ou doué voyer, dit yo, moun n'a passé, et puis juge la apoué, sous te voyel, ok? Ça pas seulement famille, creditors as well. Sous te connaît, gen mortgage sous kaila, faut voyer ça. Sous connaît, gen credit card, faut voyer pour yo connaît as well. Et puis, ba yo temps, pour yo répondre.
Right. And if you don't have a will, then the law says who receives the money and how. And in every state, it's a little bit different. So here in Georgia, if you are a spouse or if you have a wife or a husband, the husband will get it all. But what if you have children, right? If you don't have a will, even though you and your husband work for that house all your life, the children now get a piece of that house, okay? The law tells you exactly who it's supposed to go to when you pass away. And here in Georgia, if you have a house, for example, the spouse gets only no less than 1/3. So now you have to share 2/3 of it with your children, okay?
All right. So si on moun a passe puis yo pa gen on will, le yo bay information, c'est l'État qui dit qui jan bay yo a passe. En pile, all of the states, yo gen différentes lois. Mais loi dans Georgia dit, même si vous mariez, même si vous connaissez avec madame ou mari ou te vle pour qu'elle a passé, l'argent passé, y a dit non, c'est nous-mêmes ou pas de faire décision pour faire un will, c'est nous-mêmes qui dit ou qui ça va faire avec elle. Madame non mari prend, I don't know how to say 1/3 in Creole. Otier? Otier. So mari ou madame n'a prend entier la donne et puis si vous gen ti moun apprend deux tiers, OK? Mais si vous pas gen ti moun madame ou mari apprend tout.
Right. And to make things easy, first I would say have a will or a trust. Even if you have a will, there's still other things you can do to make sure that your family benefit, okay? Let's talk about those things. One, the deed, okay? That's the title for your house. If you are married, you want to make sure that you own that house with rights of survivorship, okay? A lot of times when you go buy a house, I don't know why, they don't do that, okay? They do something called joint tenancy in common. And what that means in Georgia, because we're not a community property state, that means that my 50%, I can give it to my boyfriend, right? I can give it to my children. I can give it to whoever I want to give it to. It doesn't automatically go to my spouse. So first you want to make sure it says with rights of survivorship, meaning as soon as I pass away, 100% interest goes to my spouse.
OK. So, le wap fè en will, ça qui est important, c'est deed lan. Parce que deed lan dit qui moun qui gen kaila, right? Mais faut li marquer bien. Parce que Jean li te dit avant, every state is different. Now, Georgia, yo dit, si ou pa gen mo right of survivorship, li pa pran tout kaila. Même si non yo de la. M konnen en pile moun sorti different places, le ou nan Georgia. Tout moun e pa Georgia ou te fait, right? Ou pa Georgia ou te commencé. Parce que dans Florida, yo di même bagay, mais dans Florida, si li c'est en joint tenancy, la automatically aller avec madame ou Maria. Yo li pa doué mette right of survivorship parce que c'est ça yo croit. Mais faut connaître ça parce que m'gen en pile client qui gen properties, gen kay, gen te nan plusieurs côtés. So faut nous connaître les wap fait deed là, faut li marquer bien et puis faut nous connaître ou pas ka juste faire ça pour tête pa ou si ou connaît ou gen en plan dans tête ou li pas ka arrêter dans tête ou faut ou di en monde pour nous ka wè si loi ale avec.
Bank accounts, life insurance, you have to make sure you have a beneficiary. So you can fill out a beneficiary designation form for life insurance, but even your bank account, you can do something called a transfer on death. You just ask them. I don't know why they don't tell you. They should just ask you, right? But they're not going to ask you. You have to ask. Say, can I have a transfer on death form? So then when you pass away, I don't have to wait to go to court before I could touch the money. I might need the money today to feed the kids, to pay the mortgage, to take care of business. So fill out a transfer on death, and then you don't have to worry about the will.
Oui, parce que dans probate, ou connaît tout ça ou pas dit côté la prale, y a prend li et puis faut ton, and that's a big thing with probate. Faut ton les juges la fait tout process là passé, juge la prouvé tout bagay, c'est là ça y a recevoir ça ou te quitter pour yo. So, si vous avez un canal banque, ça c'est un gros bagage parce que je toujours parle avec les clients de ça. Même si vous ne voulez pas un trust, mais vous pouvez faire un bagage. Vous allez dans la banque, il faut dire. Lui dit ça et puis me dit ça tout. Pour qui ça, vous ne pas juste dire moun ça. Même quand dit pour qui ça, après, pour qui ça, vous pas dit. Mais il y a un bagage qui est le transfer on death, OK? C'est transfer on death or pay on death account. Et puis, ou dit, yo, m'vle papier ça, le ou gen papier ça, ou marqué on non on moun, yo pap aller dans probate pour ça. Ça, c'est un bagay that's gonna pass probate, l'a just aller joindre moun nan, si li pa un ti moun. Ça nous va vle quitter un ti moun. You connais, si ou pas fait ça, let's say, parce qu'on pi moun pa connaît pour yo faire probate. Si famille ou pas connaît pour yo faire probate parce que te quoi c'est seulement kaila ou te vend kaila yo joindre l'argent yo pas fait rien. Canal bank la chita là et puis tout state or banks yo gen un temps pour l'argent rester dans canal bank là. Si personne pas mandé pour li aller dans l'état. So that could be a reason yo pa di yo pa di nou sa, mais kounya ou konen ou ka di yo a transfer on death or pay on death et puis ça propre aller na probate.
That's right. And this part is easy. Parler avec famille. Talk to your family. Sometimes kids don't even know you have house in Haiti. You have house in Boston. Nobody knows that. So how do we know to look for it, right? So we lose 79% of our property. Black people lose 79% of their property because families don't know to look for it. And guess who knows to look for it? Everybody else, right? So we have something called adverse possession, where if they sit on your land, use your land, enjoy your land like it's theirs, they go to court and they say, you know, I've been using it for about 10 years now. It's now mine. And they take it from us. And by the time we find out that mom and dad had land or grandma had land somewhere, it's gone. So what you want to do is talk to them, tell them, you have this, look for this, write a list, put it somewhere in a safe place so that your family know exactly where to find it.
Mais ma mette sous ça parce que je travaille avec un avocat qui est en Haïti, qui fait estate planning as well, qui prend terre pour moun and all of those things. Ma vle pour just quoi, oh, parce que li en Haïti, pas gagné nou ka fait. Parce que guess ou ka fait bagay, si ou connaît côté lié, si ou mettez un moun, connaît ça c'est un bagay yo qu'on dit, si m quitte un moun sous terre, am quitte un moun sous kaila, that's like your estate planning documents in Haiti. Mais gen un process as well. So generally di ti mounou yo parce que gen avocat kap travail sous bay sa yo, sous te gen un grand en maman te quitte terre et puis ou connaît côté lié ou still get communication avec moun yo ki la, so pa connaît moun yo, you know how we say just quitte ça. Mais si ou still get communication avec moun yo, gen bagay ki ka fait sous ça as well.
And if you decide to have a trust, it's one thing for the lawyer to set up the trust. Now you have to transfer the property into the trust. The trust doesn't mean anything if you don't transfer the property into trust. So now the house is owned by the trust, or now the life insurance beneficiary is the trust. So you have to make sure you go update all your documents, your 401k, your IRA, and you say, I want to leave it to so-and-so, or I want to leave it to the trust.
Okay. si wap fè on lot bagay ki bon avec trust lan lap kembe bagay ou men li pa, how we say, enforceable. Li pa pran effet. It's not going to be effective. It's not going to be good unless, on moun di yon bagay? Efficace. Li pa efficace si nou pa mette ba yo la dan. So, jan ou fè sa si yo gen 401k ou gen insurance, le ou gen papier bénéficiaire, ou changer avec non trust lan. Faut ou mette ça là. Et puis, y a connaît, especially si li gros, parce que ou te gen tan di non trust la ki jan ou vle pou partager. So, si m gen tan di ki jan pou partager, faut l'argent rive là pour li ka partager. Okay? So that's very important pour nous faire.
Okay. Our next topic will be guardianship versus conservatorship. How does one go about setting up guardianship or conservatorship? And what are the key considerations in making those decisions?
Well, before we talk about guardianship, conservatorship, what we want is we want everyone to have a healthcare directive, which she's going to be talking about, right? We want you to have a paper that says who my agent is, making decisions for my medical, where I'm placed. If I go to the hospital, do I want to be fed through a machine? And then we also want someone to make decisions about my money, my assets, paying my bills, take care of the house. And I'm not dead. I'm alive. I get in an accident. I'm sick. I can't me pa kapale. You know, if you can't do something for yourself, you want those documents in place, okay? Now, if you don't have those documents in place, what happens? There's a process called guardianship and conservatorship. Guardianship is just like when you have timun, right? You take care of the person, like who take care of your mom. You know, you take care of her. You put her, talk to the doctors for her. You get her medicament. You know, fait tout bagay pour lui. That's a guardian, okay? And you have to go to court to become the guardian. And what happens is you need two people, two family members or two people that know about the situation to be on the petition, okay? You have to talk about why they need the guardianship. You can't just say because I don't want my mom to do it anymore. Mom cannot be able to do it anymore, okay? And that's how you can become a guardian. You file it with the court. An evaluator has to go out. This is like a psychologist that goes and says, Mom can't do it anymore by herself, right? She go and talk to her, li parle avec li di, oh, li pa ka kompon tu bagay, onko. And so then at that point, that's where they say, okay, then we agree that you need the guardian, and then you have to go and have a hearing, and then the judge will appoint a guardian.
Gen bagay, so si on bagay rivo, so premier bagay nou vle pale de paske gen jan ou ka take away the need for guardianship. So sa li ta pale de is the durable powers of attorney, c'est pour finance lan, et puis healthcare surrogate, c'est pour santé, okay? Living will, c'est un bagay ke ou di ki sa ou vle ki passe avou, et puis ki moun c'est agent mwen, because they say, who is your agent? Ou pa mouri, ou still nan la vie. Mais ou ka gen tan fè décision ki moun a parler pour moi parce que si on moun gen pile ti moun, right? Ou gen pile moun qui ka prend soin ou pile moun dans la vie mais ou connaît toujours di bon ça ou connaît ki moun qui ka fait décision yo ben qui moun ou relé les gen bagay de l'argent qui moun ou relé les gen bagay de santé et puis c'est moun ça yo wap gen tan di on your powers of attorney or healthcare surrogate c'est moun ça wap parler avec moun ça. Mais si ou pas fait ça, for de moun ale na court, et puis yap di, moun sa paka yo incapacitated, yo paka pale pou kont yo paka fait décision yo pou kont yo encore. So na mande au juge pou ba nou pouvoir pou nou ka fait ça qui bon pour yo, et pas mal, right? Na fait ça qui bon pour yo, mais faut un juge fait décision ça. Après gen moun yo appointé, y a dit faut un docteur parce que faut yo faire une détermination que moun nan vraiment incapacitated. So le yo fait docteur a vini, docteur a parlé avec, la demandé question pour yo ouais est-ce que moun sa ka fait décision pour te parler vraiment? est-ce que gen un problème vraiment? Si yo dit oui, gen un problème, Kounya après ou fin tout papier yo, y a voye un report. Report a dit juge la oui, ça yo dit c'est vrai, moun nan incapacitated or parce que en pile fois people yo pas vle guardianship nan, y a dit non, moun nan pas incapacitated, m'kwe juge la faut entrer et puis faire un hearing. Après ça, ou aller dans court, si tout bagay bon, court is over and then you will have the guardianship ou gen pouvoir.
And the conservatorship piece
Yes.
is to manage the money, just
Yeah.
like the financial power of attorney. Now, the problem with that is every single time, your brother and your sister don't always agree, right? No, I want mommy. No, I want mommy here with me. So what happened? They start to fight. And what does the judge normally do when everybody's fighting? They're going to appoint the state or they're going to appoint the county, okay? That person don't know your mom. That person don't know you. That person wants to get paid, right? So now they're going to take money that's supposed to go for the care of the person because everybody can't get along. That's why it's so important for you to go ahead and put it in a document now, right? You talk to your family now. If this happened, I want my daughter to do this. I want my son to do this. So that everybody's already in agreement and we don't have to go to court for them to make a decision like that.
Okay. So conservatorship c'est l'argent. So guardianship nan c'est pour quoi? Pour moun nan sa ou genyen to manage those things. Mais conservatorship c'est l'argent ou genyen. Ou pas vle pour pas faire the durable power of attorney parce que sou pas faire li, faut moun yo vini ensemble pour faire décision yo. Also, on l'autre bagay, juge la approuver ça y a payé. That is a headache. Pour toujours après aller dans court le ou gen bagay pour faire. Pour moun nan, that's a delay et puis ça pas un bagay qui bon. Mais conservatorship c'est seulement le ou aller dans court là et puis ou dit moun nan gen l'argent ça et puis m'vle pour moun pour faire décision avec l'argent li genyen.
Another important thing to think about, a lot of times we talk about insurance. That's a great thing to have. And you leave the beneficiaries as children. Well, if your children is not an adult, if your children is less than 18 years old, children cannot receive money. So what's going to happen? We're back in court again, right? Now we got to go get a conservatorship to manage the money for the child. And just because you're the parent doesn't mean you automatically can manage the money. You have bad credit. If somebody says, oh, we don't trust him, let's say grandma come and say, oh, they don't make good decisions, now you can't manage the money for your own children, okay? And now mom passed away and the children can't get access to the money and we have to go to court to get access to the money, okay? So what you want to do is make sure that if you're leaving life insurance for children, you either want to leave it in a trust, right, trustee, or in your will, you want to say, I want this person to be the guardian and conservator and manage the money for my child.
So, le ou gen yon timoun, fò nou pense de le ou gen timoun nan, paske si ou kite l'argent pour timoun, fò ou still aller dans court et puis fò yo fait un conservatorship. Ça apprend temps et puis timoun nan pa recevoir or le moun ya bataille, especially si moun a bataille pour l'argent, mais le ou fait si c'est un will, si c'est un trust, ou gen temps abdi. C'est moun sa kap gardien, c'est moun sa kap conservator, so pa gen problème ça et puis yo kap prend soin ti moun yo. Ou pa vle quitter assurance nan non ti moun, ou pa vle quitter aucun l'argent nan non ti moun, même si ou c'est ma tante, ou c'est parent, ou c'est grand, pa quitter nan non ti moun yo, okay? Parce que we want to avoid that.
Now, if something tragic happens, you get in a car accident, or you die and you're not prepared, and it leaves to the kids, you can also still need a conservatorship, but you can't anticipate that. There's no way to plan for everything, right? That's okay. You can get a licensed person to serve for you. I can serve for you and make sure the money goes where it needs to go, and I can file the reports to the court, and I can maybe get a trust for you at that time, so that way you don't have to keep going through the court process, but I can help you navigate on how to get the conservatorship. And here in Georgia, you have to file a petition for doubtful claim, meaning I have to settle all the debt first before the settlement will come in. So sometimes you get in a car accident, you get a lot of money, then I can help you settle that claim and then get the money in the conservatorship for the children.
Okay. Si on bagay rive ou quand accident et puis wap jouen on pile l'argent k'ap entrer ou ka mettre un monde qui professionnel dans parti ça ka prend l'argent ka make sure that tout bagay passe si gen dette qui la régler tout ça pour l'argent vin joindre ti moun yo jan ou vle pour vin joindre ti moun yo.
What are some common misconceptions about estate planning that you encounter, and how do you address them?
All right. It's not in Creole. You're going to say the question again? Okay. So, qui sa moun kwe de estate planning qui pa vrai or si li vrai? En bagay, nous toujours tende, le nous parler de estate planning, et moun kwe fom gen l'argent, gros l'argent. Sa gros l'argent yen, yo pa ka diyo ki sa gros l'argent ye. Or yo kwe, ça c'est bagay lot moun yo, ça c'est bagay blanc, ça c'est bagay juif, ça c'est, et pas pour nous-mêmes. Map just kembe bagay mwen la, et puis ti moun yo connaît ça pour yo faire avec. That is not true. On pile ça nous get up holiday ou ka répondre ça pour tête pas, right? That's not true. Et pas en seul culture qui fait estate planning, et pas en amount of l'argent. Si ou gen en bagay, OK? Et puis nous tout gen en bagay. Ou gen kayou, ou gen l'argent dans canal bankou, li pas dépend de combien, ou si c'est $1,000, si c'est $100,000, c'est là ça. No. Ou gen bagay ou connaît pour yo ou vle pour yo passer avec ti moun yo. Ou connaît ou vle pour quitter en l'argent pour l'église là. Ou connaît gen un monde qui fait bon avec ou, et puis ou vle quitter un ti bagay pour lui. Si ou pas dit ça, si ou pas mettez ça dans yon plan, dans yon trust, dans yon will, si ou pas planifié pour ça, moun ka connaît ou te dit ça. Mais ou pas ka croire y a fait li just parce que ou dit, yo pas gen, they don't have to do it, right? They don't have to do it. Si m connaît ou vle en bagay, et puis on l'autre bagay, c'est ti moun mwen yo connaît ça m vle pour yo faire parce que m gen tachita avec yo, et puis m parle avec yo. Et puis moun kwe, the reason why this is a myth is parce que moun kwe si m di ti moun yo, that means y a fait samedi. Yo pa gen pouvoir pour yo faire li. Ou ka, et puis ti moun yo ka vle faire vraiment. Mais yo pas gen pouvoir pour yo faire li parce que yo ka di kaisa m'vle pour kaisa pour nous faire li moitié m'vle pour l'argent dans canal banque là pour nous dire moitié et puis c'est samedi, OK, that's it. Ou ka di ça yo ka bien respecté yo vle faire mais for yo still aller dans probate court le yo aller dans probate court ça ka passer nous gen te dit get creditors qui ka prendre l'argent ça. Get madame Marie, yo pas marié les route parler. Kounya yo marié. So madame avec Marie kana zore yo di yo listen, you have a right to more. Ou te na kay lavel, ou ka prend ça, ou pas faire plan. So même si moun connaît ça ou vle, ba yo pouvoir pour yo ka faire li. Pas just di yo ça ou vle parce que we have steps to get it done. So those are two of the things. Premier, c'est kilti ou l'argent, gen assez l'argent ou gen assez. Ou gen bagay de valeur ou gen assez pour faire un plan. Deuxième bagay, c'est moun yo connaît so c'est celle ça et pas celle ça, OK? Si ou dili si ou ba yo pouvoir avec un will, avec un trust or the powers of attorney, c'est laisse ça yo ka fait li.
One thing I will say is life insurance. They'll say, I'm going to leave it to my oldest child, and I know they'll do the right thing, right? If you leave it, whoever you leave it to, they don't have to do anything with it. They can keep it, put it in their pocket, and keep going. I had a situation where 6 kids, they all came in. Mom left it to the oldest son. He came, he said, I'm not paying for the burial. I'm not paying for the service. I need the money right now. And he did not pay for it. And we couldn't do anything about it, okay? So there is no legal obligation for anybody to do anything with the life insurance if they are the beneficiary. Okay? Did you translate that? I think they understood.
Yeah, you got it? All right.
Okay. The other thing is that things automatically happen. And we talked a little bit about this. Just because you're married, it does not mean your husband automatically gets anything. Just because you have children, it doesn't mean anything automatically happens. If there's a will, it has to be filed with the court. And then again, number 2, just because my spouse legally should receive something, if somebody come and fight it and say, hey, I'm the other wife, I was still married to him, well, guess what? Now we fighting over the money, right? So nothing automatically ever happens. The way to ensure things happen is you have to put a plan in place. Okay.
How do state-specific laws in Georgia impact state planning?
Well, I guess,
covered it a
yeah,
little
we
bit.
covered it a
Talked
little
about
bit.
it,
I guess
yeah.
just to reiterate, when you pass away, that's called intestate, meaning you died without a will, and it tells you exactly who would receive from that will. And that's very important because sometimes people will file things. I get this all the time because I'm in court all the time. They'll say, well, that wasn't my real brother, or I didn't know him, okay? Right now, I'm handling an estate, the deacon that got murdered by the police officer, and the first meeting he brought me in, none of the siblings knew each other. No one knew of each other, so they're fighting like, I don't know him, I never heard of her, I don't know this person, okay? So the biggest thing, why that's important is because when I file it with the court, if I leave that person off, they're gonna say I did something wrong. They're gonna say I was trying to be deceptive or misleading, right? And then that can make you unfit to serve as their personal representative. So it's very important that you know who the family members are, whether you like it or not, or agree with it or not. If you know Papa had a child over here, that's still the child, okay? And you have to let them know when you file those documents so that everybody receives notice and so that somebody could get appointed to administer the estate.
I think this kind of falls into the next question. How should estate planning be approached differently for blended families or non-traditional family structures?
All right. So, question, on va connaître parce que les dit blended families. Qui ça pour faire avec estate planning sur une famille, moun get une famille, l'autre moun get une famille, et puis y a venir ensemble, okay? So, qui ça pour faire? There are things pour nous considérer là où get une famille. Ça veut dire si gen ti moun, yo de ap vini et puis yo gen ti moun ou gen moun wa prend soin parce que ça arrive en pile fois tout. Si yo gen maman ou k'ap rete avou, okay? So specifically ça nous kon parler de is there already a plan nou gen in place? Si ou pa gen un plan in place already, ou vle parler pour connaître. For example, my bon example, because that's the best way to answer this. Si ou marié ou gen tan gen yon kay, moun wap achete yon kay ensemble, mais ou gen tan gen yon kay, okay? Moun si ou pa di rien, nou ka parler, le nou ensemble, nou di oui, ça prêté pour ti moun mwen yo, moun di pas gen problème, ou ka quitter ça pour ti moun yo. Et puis ou di gen en Canal Bank gen parce que m'te vle pour collège yo m'a quitté ça à pas, OK? Pour yo ou même avec moun nan nous connaît, OK? C'est décision ou fait. Mais si ou pas mettez ça nan ça nous relè que pile moun we have premarital agreements, prenup. On pile moun quoi ça c'est un bagay qui mal. Li prend bagay qui mal si ou utiliser comme un tool for planning. Parce que si on bagay arrivé, mande Dieu pardon, mais si ou allez en vacances, ou allez en vacances et puis nous pas retourner, ou pas faire plan, ou ka connaît, moun ka connaît, mais l'autre moun pas connaît. Famille a vini, famille pas moun a pas gen un avocat, la prend avocat. Avocat dit yo te marié. So, li ka mande pour ça, li ka mande pour kay, li ka mande pour tout Canal Bank yo pour li gen moitié dans ça. Ça, juge l'a dit oui, parce que yo te marié. Mais nous te connaît ça te pour ti moun yo. C'est si ou pas fait plan, they can lose out. Ya perdi ça ou te quitté pour yo parce que ou pas fait plan in a premarital plan or in like we have wills and trusts. Le ou fait wills pour moun ki marié, we say mirror. So a mirror will. Like li ka di même bagay yo. Parce que ou vle pour yo di même bagay parce que yo ka we a will on lot moun te perdi will yo, right? Ou vle pour di même bagay. Kaila a prale pour et puis ou dit qui moun adresse là tout bagay nous préparer c'est comme ça ou fait ça a prale avec moun ça a prale avec moun ça même si en famille ou pas remet ça mais yo pas qu'à faire rien parce que, yeah, exactly, yo pas qu'à faire rien parce que ou gen ta faire décision. So those, all of the things that nous te parlé de, wap utiliser ça, but one of the things we don't talk about, it is the prenup. So ou allez in an agreement, you sign it, and you say, I have a right, parce que ou gen, ou ta doué prendre ça. Mais parce que nous parlons, pas prendre pouvoir ça, m'a quitté ça yo pour l'autre moun nan, et puis m'a prendre l'autre bagay yo. Oh, you say it in English? You can say it in English.
Where do I start? What she was saying is the tools. Okay, so if you have a blended family, you want to make sure that you're considering all the things that could happen. And I'll use some different language, but unintended beneficiaries is very important, meaning the people that you really didn't want to receive it end up receiving it. So when you marry someone, they might already have some children, and you might already have some children, right? And maybe you already created some plans for your children, and he maybe created a plan for his children. Let's say he dies first, right? And he left everything to you, and then you die. Well, his children end up missing out, right? Because we didn't plan for it. So what she's saying is you want to make sure that you put something in place. And most of the time, the thing that works very well is a prenuptial agreement when you come before the marriage and you say, this is how we're going to split up assets. These are supposed to be for my kids, these are supposed to be for your kids, and then this is going to be for us. But let's say you don't do that. You still can do something called a post-nuptial agreement, okay? Meaning we're married, but we still want to talk about some of the things that we already had before the marriage, because I still want to make sure my kids are going to be okay, because I worked very hard for them before you came along, right? Or I would say a trust. A trust is always nice because sometimes husband and wife don't want to sit down and do the estate plan together. I get that all the time. I get just the wife calling me or just the husband calling me. Or sometimes somebody's getting remarried, right? And they don't want to tell the new wife all the things. They don't want to say, I don't really want to share my house with you, right? And they go behind and they do things. Well, guess what? Let's say that person passes away and he leaves the house to her. She doesn't know. She's like, this is my house. Now the kids are fighting her, right? The kids are saying, hold on, that was my house with my mother before she died, right? I want the house. And she's like, no, I'm the new wife and I've been living here for the last 10 years. So it's my house too. So you create problems when you don't have a plan in place, but the way to alleviate that the most when you have a blended family is a trust. A trust can talk about, maybe my wife stays there while she's alive, right? Maybe we give her a life estate and she can stay there, enjoy it, but when she passes away, then the house really goes to the children, okay? Or maybe we talk about, well, what if his kids never came to see him, right? Maybe the new kids took care of dad, but those old kids never came. They never came back. They never visited. They didn't like the wife or whatever the situation may be. Well, we could talk about that in the trust, right? We could say, make sure they don't get anything. We know they're around. We know they're alive, but we don't want them to benefit from it. Okay? I like that? Okay, I like it too.
I had a case like that.
I went down.
Okay. Yeah. We have cases like that
all the time. All the time, right? Because the thing about estate planning and probate, we deal with everything nobody wanted to deal with while you were alive, right? All the family problems, all the things that you fight about, you stop talking, right? Nobody knows why auntie don't talk to auntie so-and-so anymore. Well, guess what? When you die, now we all want to talk about it. Yeah. And we got to deal with it, right? So now what we're saying is, let's talk about it, or let's not talk about it, that's fine. But let's put a trust in place or a will in place to address it so when you pass away, auntie don't come and say that that house was hers, but she put a deposit on there 25 years ago that we already paid her back for anyway. Okay? Got it? Yeah. Okay.
All right. How does estate planning impact one's tax obligation, both for the individual and their heirs? That would be you, Lucas.
Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and I'll take that question. So first and foremost, let's talk about the individual. And by the individual, you mean the deceased, right? Yeah. So when a deceased passes away, any estate obligation, any obligation which they had financially goes to their estate. So in the matters of taxation, if you have to pay taxes, if your estate has to pay taxes, then I'm happy for you because that means you're very wealthy. So most people are not going to pay estate taxes because there's an estate tax exemption of $13.61 million for the federal government. And if you're a married couple and let's say, God forbid, a married couple passes away, you will have an estate tax exemption of $27.22 million. So essentially, if your estate is not valued at that level, then you won't have to pay federal estate taxes. Now, lucky for us here in the state of Georgia, we don't have either estate taxes or inheritance taxes. So we don't have to worry about that in the state of Georgia. So unless you're part of 0.2% of Americans, ça fait bon comme ça, then you don't have to worry about estate taxes. Pour majorité,
So, ou bien dire, si moun moure, va y a un taxe moun a payer?
si moun nan pa gen plus que, si bien que moun nan gen pas vaut plus que 13,16 millions de dollars, you pas obligé de payer rien.
Millions.
So, ou dit catégorie de moun sa, c'est 0,2% lié.
0,2% de tout Américain.
Si moun nan moure, ou va gen pièce taxe à payer, sous fait moins que 13 millions de dollars.
Sous fait moins, si tout bien ensemble, on mette ensemble, yo vin.
Ok, si asset ou comme valeur gain.
Évaluation. Exactement.
Okay.
Exactement. Oui.
But I just want to add this, but you do have to file your final tax return. So the final tax return, before you died, if you had income, you still have to pay that.
So moi, fait tax return too?
For you,
Right,
for
from the
your
estate, from the
pay
estate.
ça.
It's state like fait tax return,
Ex-
pas moi.
Exactly. And if you have outstanding taxes, federal student loans, and legal fees, are priority debts. So you can't try to get out of them because we're gonna come and get you. We're gonna get a lien. But the IRS will come to pursue outstanding taxes. Okay. There are things that you can do, like offers and compromise and things like that, to work through those, but you do have to address it. Don't ignore it, because that could be a problem. Because an administrator or an executor has a fiduciary duty. That's a federal duty to do the right thing. So if you don't pay those taxes, they're going to come after you, okay, even though they weren't your taxes. So make sure you hire him to take care of it, so that way you don't have to worry about it.
Et si m'gon chose, mais comme là non chose. Ça n'est chose, t'es non chose là. Plutôt, gars faut besoin d'arriver mourir. Est-ce que ça dit à l'appliquer? Est-ce que chose là doit payer taxe RS là pour moi? Et si chose là doit payer taxe là, ou bien même là que m'gé chose ça m'doit le bien mieux pas sous, n'a parlé de planning qu'on y a là. M'prend advisor m'aller, m'font rester planning. M'bé chose. M'gé chose m'gé tout bien. Mais gars faut pas arriver mourir. Mais qu'on a m'dé do RS corps. Est-ce que ça dit parler à tax with moun qui planning là? Est-ce que ça touche dans corps chose là, mais là qui me gon chose qui pour créer me get chose là, si me get chose là, me doit payer RS encore solide.
OK, bon tout. Il y a deux types de choses en général. Une chose qui est révocable, une chose qui est irrévocable. Chose qui est révocable là ou qu'a créé le jeudi après ça, on année de cela on dit ou pas vle pour chose là ou révoquer. Si chose là révocable, IRS a taxé parce que IRS a considéré qu'il fait partie de estate essentiellement l'homme. Mais si chose là irrévocable, c'est comme si une entité séparée complètement de vous-même. Donc ça veut dire de vous mourir, la complètement séparée de l'entité. Donc donc exemption qui est appliquée à vous-même à estate par là. Personnellement, il n'est pas appliqué à chose là. Mais en bénéfice de chose irrévocable là, c'est que il y a différents de taxes bénéfices que je joins. Il y a différentes de manières que vous ne pouvez pas taxer, mais on est seulement obligé que pour qu'à fil des différents returns pour lui chaque année.
What tax considerations should be taken into account when designating beneficiaries for assets like retirement accounts and if life insurance policies?
Absolutely. So let's first start with you said retirement accounts and life insurance. Okay, let's start with life insurance policies first. So for life insurance policies, those proceeds from life insurance policies are generally non-tax. They're not taxable. The only exception is if you earn interest on those proceeds. So if you earn interest, then the interest is going to be taxed. So they're not going to be taxable. As far as individual retirement accounts, it depends on what type of individual retirement account you have. So let's say let's say you have a Roth IRA, which is a pre-tax account. If you have a Roth IRA and then you pass away and you leave it to a beneficiary, then your beneficiary is not going to be taxed on the proceeds. However, if you have a regular Roth IRA, which is a non-tax Roth IRA, it's a post-tax, they're going to have to pay the taxes on that Roth IRA when they receive it from you.
Are there any tax-efficient strategies for transferring property to one's assets or to their heirs?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Are there any tax-efficient strategies for transferring property or assets to their heirs?
Absolutely. As the ladies have discussed here ad nauseum, the trust is a great tool for you to transfer your properties to your heirs. Essentially, it's a great asset to protect. It's a great, especially the irrevocable trust. It's a great tool to protect your property and also for you to designate exactly what's going to happen to your property after you pass. You can control it. As far as taxes go, once again, as I've stated earlier, most people are not going to pay estate taxes once they pass away. And if you are going to pay estate taxes, then the trust is certainly going to come in handy in protecting your property and allowing you to pay less taxes.
Ou ka
I just
répéter
want-
ça, ou te di en créole, il très important pour moun k'ap suiv nou nan YouTube ou connaît, ou di yon bagay ki très important ça, besoin encourager communauté. Ou di ou te di ou te parler de individual avec tax que life insurance benefit, moun pa payer tax sur les, ou ka traduire en créole pour moun yo ka connaît, yon avantage pour yo ka gen life insurance là.
Je traduis ça. Donc, si on mourit, après ça, on te prend assurance de vie ou quitte assurance de vie pour famille, comme que famille a touché une assurance de vie, il pas payer taxe sur lui. Donc, seul gens que vous payer taxe, c'est si vous touchez intérêt sur comme là, il a payé taxe sur intérêt. Mais sous comme que vous quittez pour vous, il pas payer pièce taxe sur lui. Et si en famille on compte en retraite, après ça, vous vient mourir, vous quittez le pour un compte de retraite qui est les Roth IRA, ça veut dire son compte de retraite que vous taxé avant que vous bail déboursement compte là. Donc si vous avez payé taxe sur lui déjà, là vous venez joindre comme là ou pas payer taxe sur la deuxième fois. Mais si vous pouvez payer taxe sur lui deuxième fois vous venez joindre comme là ça il y a faut payer taxe sur lui.
I just want to add to that, and you can translate for me. When you have an IRA that's not a Roth IRA, a lot of times you can request that it goes into a rollover death benefit IRA. And there are exceptions, right? For children, particularly, you leave it for minor children, you can have it roll over so that it can avoid the tax implications and it'll be in the policy and continue to grow until they're able to withdraw from it.
So, pour IRA, spécialement IRA que vous pas taxé avant, ou ka transférer à un autre compte, spécialement sur Gentimoun. Il y aurait ça en rollover. Donc, si vous transférez la type de IRA pour Timoun, donc, il n'y a pas de taxe, la Timoun n'a pas utiliser pour n'importe ça au besoin.
Can you discuss the importance of advanced health care directives in estate planning? This would be Dr. Dorothy.
Yes, thank you, ladies and gents. You did very well explaining how financial assets can affect people. And now it's the same thing. An advanced healthcare directive is exactly what it states. It's something you make in advance in regards to your health care. So it's a written document, a legal document that you leave to say, just in the example of the money, this money goes there, that money goes here, this house stays with this person. It's the same for your health. So what do you want to do while you're alive before something happens to you when you become incapacitated, where you cannot make a decision, where you may be in a coma, where you may not have the right mental health to decide? What would you want done if you become in a state where you cannot make a decision, a healthcare decision for yourself? Would you want to not be on dialysis? Would you not want to have mechanical ventilation? Would you not want to be fed through tube feeding? would you not want to have pain management? What would you want to do, basically? That's what that advanced healthcare directive would be in the case that you are not in a position to decide for yourself. You would leave that directive for your doctor, your healthcare provider, your family to know exactly what it is that you want done for yourself.
How do healthcare professionals assist individuals in making informed decisions about their healthcare in the context of estate planning?
Well, in the context of an estate planning, you want to make sure that you either discuss this with your family member, an attorney, a friend, that can put your wishes in writing, outline exactly what it is that you want. Someone that you trust, someone that may be a family member, as we stated, maybe somebody from your church, and somebody that you know will follow what your wishes are. It's not someone that's not going to explain exactly what it is that you want done. So in estate planning, you can have that in your will so that your attorney knows exactly what it is that you would or would not want done in the case that you become unable to speak, you become unable to explain, you become unable to decide what you would want done for you by healthcare professionals.
What role do healthcare professionals play in evaluating an individual's capacity to make decisions about their estate?
Well, there is an assessment that can be done to decide, are you cognitively impaired? Are you able to make the right decisions? Are you able to accept your decisions that you're making? And are you okay with the plans that you have set? So a thorough assessment would need to be done to dictate, are you in the right capacity to even write this document? Or is it necessary that maybe they provide what's the term, the surrogate, or that they provide somebody a guardianship to make decisions for you? So ahead of all those things, we would assess to see, is somebody pushing you to say, okay, this is what you want, this is what you want? Are you mentally capable of making those decisions before they are sent either to court or before they are written down on paper as to your personal wishes?
How do you recommend individuals communicate their healthcare wishes to their families?
Speak with your children, speak with your closest friends, especially your healthcare providers. Let them know what your wishes are. Make sure you have an attorney or somebody that's in the field of providing legal services so that you can have those things written and let them know where they are too, because a lot of times we have documents, nobody can find them. So it's highly recommended that you have a card that states what you have. You have a durable power of attorney, or you have a healthcare proxy, or that you have a advance directive, or where it is, and so that people can find it. And we also recommend that if you're traveling, travel with your advance directive, so that if something happens to you, people will know, oh, this person does not wish any of these things, but they do wish that. Otherwise, you're going to have family members deciding for you, healthcare professionals deciding for you, and other people and especially you not deciding for yourself, because at this point, you can't make any decisions. And so all those need to be set and done ahead of time, not afterwards.
It's helpful to give the decision makers a copy of it so that if you do end up in the hospital, they can reach out.
Absolutely.
And also your healthcare provider, we always give them a copy to put it in the file. Yeah. So a lot of times, larger practices, they put it in a system and they can just see it when they look it up.
Sure.
How do Medicare and Medicaid factor into estate planning, particularly for long-term care consideration?
Merci. Je pense que l'avocat Jadine a commencé à couvrir ça. Et même pour aller un exemple qui est capable de mettre plus en phase sur lui. Là, on a parlé de Medicare, Medicaid. En pile fois, nous ne pas penser qui impact il va gagner sur l'argent. Parce que, en pile fois, nous ne pas compte qui différence là. Medicare, c'est assurance de santé. Strictly assurance de santé. Medicaid, c'est programme gouvernement fédéral là, qui sorti dans le gouvernement fédéral là, l'argent sorti là, mais c'est l'État que tu vivre là qui gère un pile programme en bas Medicaid. You buy ça les medical assistance pour monde, you buy food stamp, le monde qui connaît, you buy ça les women and infant and children week. Et qui l'autre programme que vous gérez, il y a un État même qui gère l'autre programme en bas Medicaid. Mais Medicaid, lui assure que si vous êtes capable de entrer dans le programme, ça, il faut son monde qui ou vraiment besoin. C'est-à-dire, affort pas bon. C'est peut-être ça, pour aller rentrer dans le programme Medicaid, il y a plein de monde qui dit entrer dans toutes les zones, il faut les zones en Kalalou. Il y a des questions sur tout grand nous. Puis connaître est-ce qu'on a l'argent côté? Est-ce que il pas besoin d'aide sur l'argent côté? Donc, d'abord un exemple comment Medicaid vient important. Comment dire l'op fait planification, comment il est important. Moi j'aime travailler comme un nurse case manager en 2016. Le rôle moi c'est pour me capable by approval pour me capable être dans nursing home ou bien dans acute rehab ou bien dans l'hôpital. Quand il y a rôle moi il y a un monde qui a 66 ans, il était comme fait conseiller dans Medicare mais il travaille à la fois, mais il y a Medicare Part A. Il y a Medicare à l'hôpital là mais il travaille tout. Mais il peut vraiment dans full Medicare. Quand il y a 66 ans, il font un stroke, quand il y a l'hôpital, il passe plusieurs jours à l'hôpital, 15 jours comme ça. Après ça, ils vont aller dans acute rehab. Parce qu'à cause de stroke là, tant que vous faites intensive rehab, je pense que quand vous êtes capable de gagner membres et toute fonction. Donc après 15 jours, vous voyez que le pape a besoin de plus. On l'a 7 jours encore, dit ok bon, on ouvre dans skilled nursing. So dans skilled nursing, il passe en pile temps. Ils viennent arriver à côté, ils disent comme ça que les pas capable de gagner parce que non seulement les besoins physical therapy, skill nursing parce qu'il n'est pas capable de marcher en bas, les besoins speech therapy parce qu'il n'est pas capable de swallow, parce qu'il n'est pas capable de valer, et il passe en pile temps nursing, skilled nursing l'a demandé jour toujours. Il demande des jours, chacun nous baille plus de jours. Quand il y a nous venons à 120 jours, quand il y a à 120 jours, quand il y a un guideline, bon côté dit comme ça que bon, si il y a un jour comme ça, est-ce que a gagné un progrès qu'a fait? Quand il y a un progrès qui pas qu'a fait. Quand il y a assurance obligé de dire bon, nous obligé de déclarer mon ça custodial care. Custodial care c'est là il doit dans skilled nursing facility mais il dit comme ça que those kind of care donc physical therapy tout ça yo il pas faire rien pour lui. Donc mon ça il dit qu'on y a li dans nursing home. Nursing home c'est là il juste besoin monde pour capable aider bal manger faire toilette li faire tout bagage ça yo et assurance pas couvrir pour bagage ça. Donc c'est Medicaid qu'on y a pour moun nan gagner. Quand il y a si moun ça quand il y a des quelques l'argent dans banque ou bien te gain assurance Medicaid a demander OK ou gain tout l'argent ça yo ou pas capable mettre mais sous pas connaît ou sous te connaît ou t'a mettre l'argent protéger l'argent comme avocat a dit ou t'a protéger l'argent mettre l'argent à côté pour l'argent protéger parce que ou obligé de dépenser tout l'argent ça net qu'on gagne avant que vous capable ba au Medicaid. Mais quand il y a Jean avocat expliquer nous tout, gain Jean faut capable protéger l'argent. Mais c'est pas l'or vin malade. Et là les bagages là arrivent pour protéger l'argent parce que avocat dit à l'heure là tout, on bagaille les look back period. Il dit qu'on a fait de 5 ans, il a regardé est-ce que tu as fait manœuvre pour serrer l'argent pour médiquer de Bawel. Donc, dans ce sens-là, il y a un pile et une petite complication là-dedans. Donc, même pendant ma fait toute recherche, m'a parlé tout, il y a l'ouvre les yeux, me dit quête, d'ailleurs drôle parce que grand pile bagage ou pas connaît, ou quand n'importe monde qui doit tomber là-dedans. Donc, on a parlé de Medicare, c'est pas Medicare le problème non, mais c'est comme on a dit, c'est umbrella nous pas un parasol pour qui couvrir nous. Les on bagage arrivé. Donc, le gouvernement a une stipulation, il dit qu'il faut que comme ça pour joindre ça. Si vous ne n'avez pas comme ça, vous ne pouvez pas joindre ça. Et soit laisser, ou pas dire, OK, bon, courir, serrer l'argent, il dit comme ça, qu'il y a une pénalité, une période de pénalité que vous mettez, il dit comme ça, que si vous n'avez pas l'argent, non, si vous avez serré l'argent, non, ça, selon le nombre de l'argent, il y a, mais combien de temps après, en 20 carabés d'eau, donc il y a une complication là-dedans. C'est très important.
How does life insurance play a role in estate planning, particularly in providing for dependents and covering potential estate taxes?
Gotcha. So, as somebody who is a client of Tomorrow's and has firsthand experience on how the conversation goes for estate planning and how in detail it is to get you in the frame of mind of what's really going to happen when I'm no longer here, the follow-up question to that is, how am I going to pay for everything that's going to happen when I'm no longer here as well? For example, funeral expenses. If you ever had to pay for a funeral, you know that plots are expensive. The funeral industry itself is wildly up there. It's how do I take care of the house, right? A lot of times when we're passing properties on to children, the children might not be in a financial state to be able to pay for the house. And then unfortunately, we lose the house and we lose out on that generational wealth. And the answer for all those type of situations is life insurance, whether it be a permanent policy where you have a universal or whole life that's going to be there to create legacies, or a term policy that's going to be there to pay off debts and creditors so that way it doesn't pass on to your estate and they could come after that unless you put it in an irrevocable or revocable trust. So that's an extremely important part. And the other thing, too, is if you have children, especially young children, how are we going to pay for their care, right? Because raising kids are extremely expensive. And we know, especially for younger children, you want to take care of children until they're about 20 years old and replace your income. If you make $50,000 a year and you need to replace your income for 20 years, that's $1 million. A lot of people don't have $1 million sitting in the bank. So the answer for that might be a $30 life insurance policy that will cover that income replacement until that child is of age and they're able to take care of themselves. Also, too, we have ideas and wishes of how we want to leave legacies behind and money for our children. If you have 4 kids, you might say, oh, you know, I want to leave $25,000 each, right? But you don't necessarily have that sitting in your bank account. You can leverage life insurance to make sure that you're able to leave that legacy piece behind for your children so that way they can start a business, buy their first home, you know, pay for college tuition for the next generation. So that's how we leverage life insurance with estate planning.
Could you explain the difference between whole life and term life insurance and how each type fits into different estate planning strategies?
Sure. So I'm going to use an analogy I think you'll appreciate being in real estate. I like to say permanent life insurance, like whole life and universal, is like buying a home. When you buy these type of policies, they build equity that you can pull from to give out loans. There's a concept called infinite banking. If you guys are on social media, that's really popular, that you can use to even make money with. You can pull out from this money to buy a house, start a business, buy a car, go on vacation, leverage it for retirement. There's a lot you can do with the permanent life insurance. And then you have term life insurance, which is sort of like renting a home. It's not as much benefit. However, if you're homeless or if you don't have insurance, it's a good start until you're able to afford a permanent policy. Or you can get a term policy and convert it to a home policy.
All right. Before we go into the Q&A, I'd like to thank our speakers for taking the time out this evening to speak to our audience. Thank you for our guests coming out today. I appreciate that. We are changing the conversations within our communities, and we're starting today. So if anyone has any questions online, you can put it in the chat. But anyone has any questions in person, please stand up.
Thank you, guys. This is really needed in my Haitian community. But I have two questions for the lawyers. Okay, I'm trying to find my money. Okay, I wrote it down because I didn't want to take a lot of time. Someone told me verbally. She said she has 4 children, but one of them she was born with Down syndrome or something, but was living in some place. And then it was 4 girls. So there's 3 other women, of them were married. But she told me verbally, she said, I put in my will when I died for you to get this much money. When she died, I was not aware. My older sister was the one who told me. And I told my sister, well, she did say for me to get some money, and she passed away. But when I contact 2 of the daughters, because one of them was living in Belgium, when I contacted 2 that were in the U.S., after she passed away, they wouldn't talk to me or anything. Since I don't have anything written on paper, can I kind of say, hey, girls, she did say for you guys to give me some money?
Yes. Okay. I'll start. Yeah, you can start. That's fine. Okay. So one thing you want to find out first, premier bagay ou vle konnen, si yon moun mouri epi ti moun yo la epi ou konnen kote ti moun yo ye, premier bagay paske nan Georgia en tout kote, se kote moun nan rete is usually kote yap playen pou probate, so where they're going to file for probate. So fo gade pou we, eske yo gen tan file the probate case. Le we si yo file the probate case, more than likely wap ve yon avocat parce yo pap konnen ki detay pou bay. Men wap di juge la, so fo voye yon papier, di juge la, I contest or I have a right in this. Yeah. So you're objecting or contesting COD parce que ou pa connaît ça papier a dit. Mais COD c'est seulement yo même k'ap recevoir, you're going to object et puis ou dit ou connaît in her will li kite pou ou même li te get to do ça, and then if for some reason will ou we pa genyen ça, you can challenge it as well to make sure that that's not a fake will that they have.
Well, I was going to, okay, so what she said is if it's already open, so that's called an estate, right? It will have an estate number, and you could go to the court and ask based on your friend's name if that estate is open. You could even go online, most courts now, okay? Now, if the estate is not open, you can file a motion to compel her to file that will, because in Georgia, well, in all states, really, they have to file the will within a reasonable amount of time. And typically, it's within 1 to 2 years. So if they haven't filed it, that means you can force them to file it. And if they just don't want to talk to you, then the judge will then the court will get in contact with them and say, if there's a will out there, you have to file it. So those are 2 things you can start the process with. I would say the third thing is, if they still don't file the will, we honestly can't prove that there's a will out there, right? Then you can file a petition it's called a letters of administration, meaning they died without a will. And you can do it as an interested party, okay? And you can say, I'm owed money, or I was supposed to receive money to take care of this child. That's give you standing, meaning anybody can't just file a petition in court, but that's your reasoning as to why you're filing it on her behalf.
So the statute is only 2 years?
In Georgia, 2 years, so it's based on case law. It's reasonable is the word, but usually 2 years. If it's over 2 years, then the judge will get involved at that point. Sometimes it could be a year. It just depends. You know you had this conversation with your friend. You don't have to wait. You can say the emergency is there's a child with special needs that needs care, and I have knowledge that there's assets out there for them, and that's why I'm pursuing this.
Has it been that long? It
Yeah.
just seemed like you were questioning.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. You could still take those
You could
steps, though.
still
We
take
don't
those
want
steps.
pa barrer
Yeah.
parce que autant de
Right.
ans.
It was in New York too, so
Okay,
so
so
that
it's
would be different. Right?
okay.
Where did
so
she pass? And
in
she
New
passed
York.
away in New York?
In New York.
She lived in New York?
Yeah, and I
Okay.
was there too. Yeah.
Okay, so we could probably refer an attorney to you.
Okay.
in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Parce que
Okay, my
pas-
second
vous voulez faire
question-
ça vite.
Yeah,
Quick,
yeah.
second question, conservatorship. You guys probably heard in the community or out there, there was a crypto business that some of us were involved in. And it turns out the guy was not investing our money. You know, it went to the courts. You know, he's in prison now. But they have a group of lawyers that are conservators. And what they did, they invested the money that they got, about 280 something million. They invested that money and made profits. But what they want to do is give me what I had invested without benefits. So can some of us like have a class action lawsuit to go after, hey, if you made $1 million benefit, we should have a little bit of it too. Can
Well,
we do that?
so I don't know. It just depends on the contract that you had in place with them. So I would, because the question is, what was the original agreement? Was it to give you back a certain amount, certain percentage on your monies, right? So that is a separate issue, which would be a breach of contract, and that's taken care of in the Superior Court. And we would, I have an attorney I could refer you to that would determine what that breach is, and if you have a legitimate case, yes, they can pursue that.
Okay, because they just want to give us what we invested.
Yeah,
benefits.
I
What
just
they
don't.
made.
Yeah, it just depends, and possibly it just depends on what your what the arrangement was. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before the next question, I want to say we have a lot of people lined up for questions. Please go directly to your question, and so that way everybody. I know there's more people that have questions that are actually standing up. So I've been kind of surveying the room. So please go directly to your question. Allow them to answer, and then so that way everybody can ask their question.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Merci en pile. Son beau travail qui fait l'après-midi. Nous apprécions. Question pas dans les cas hors du sujet, pas hors du sujet. I just had a grandchild. Generation wealth. Where do I start? Save money for college. Have a saving account for him. Where do I go? That's my question.
So congratulations on your grandchild. So as far as saving money for college, if you do that, you can definitely get some tax benefits by saving into a college account for them in the future. Now, there's something called a generation skipping trust. So you can create a trust simply to essentially put the money for your grandchild so that when you pass, the asset won't even go to the grandchild's parents. They won't have to do anything with it, and it'll be specifically designated for your grandchild. Now, as my fellow attorney here stated, your grandchild probably won't have access to it when they're a minor, but definitely put in language there that when they're 18 years old, you know, they're able to do whatever you want them to do with the money. So let's say you want them to go to college. In that generation skipping trust, you can elect for them to only get the money if they go to college or if they accomplish certain milestones that you want them to accomplish.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was going to add to that as well. Since you have a grandchild and they're young, now is going to be the cheapest it will ever be for them to purchase life insurance. And you can purchase a permanent life insurance policy for them that will grow, that they'll have cash value. And so by the time they turn 18, 20, and they want to go to school, they can use that money within the life insurance policy to borrow against and pay for tuition. And that policy can be paid up. So by the time they get of age, they'll have a lump sum already paid for life insurance for them.
Thank you.
Can I add something to that real quick? Can you guys talk a little bit about 529s for children a little bit? Because that's a relevant topic to what she's talking about. Touch on 529 a little bit if you're able. Anyone on the panel?
I haven't had much experience with 529s. Can you?
So 529 is college.
Oh, the college, right. Okay.
College planning for your kids, right? You put money aside for them in terms of it grows, and it goes specifically for education. But that's something also for people that have grandkids. As a great gift for your grandchild to look into in Georgia. Do some research on 529 as well. Yes.
I must
Thank you.
agree with that because when my kids were like 1, I invested in that and it does pay off. So
It
that's
pays
a good
off a
place
lot.
to
Yes. And you will be amazed by the time they're
Yes.
18, they get ready to go to college, how much money it is. You don't have to put in a lot of money either. So by the time you look back, you're like, wow, I didn't realize that. Because let me tell you guys something. FYI, for those of you guys who don't know, college is expensive. All right? So just keep that in mind.
The good thing with the 529 plan is you make the decision even when they turn 21, 22, 23. You can still put money in there for their benefit.
What?
Messieurs, dames, merci en pile. Connaissance et richesse. Pas de richesse, nous là, sous nous. Nous très reconnaissants. Est-ce que gagne qui bonne cas joindre nous après nous sortir là? Est-ce que vous consortium mon panel? Est-ce que nous
Pourquoi tout le monde gagne 4? You're tout gagne 4 là. Pas occupé. Ou soit les social media, or you can get in contact with me or Naomi. We'll put you in contact with them.
Merci. Question gagne c'est est-ce qu'on dit que acheter permanent life insurance là c'est un bagage, son investissement ça y est? Ça c'est une partie. Deuxième question, il faut 15 cents pour m'acheter life insurance, death insurance, life insurance pour un petit monde, un mineur, et c'est pour l'argent gaspillé?
No. So, life insurance isn't necessarily an investment. It has an investment portion to it, but the difference between it being an investment and it being insurance is day one, if something arrive, right, it's going to pay out the full amount. Whereas if you have a 401k or IRA, there's an accumulation period that if you have a certain amount that you want to reach that you have to go through. With life insurance, it's not like that. And for minors, if you're buying life insurance for a minor, typically the parent or the guardian has to have a certain amount of insurance on themselves first before they're able to purchase life insurance on a minor.
Donc, qui est-ce qui a mieux géré ça? Son trust ou bien un will?
The trust could be a beneficiary to the life insurance, or depending on the complexity of your finance, it could the will could tell where the life insurance is going to go to, who the beneficiary will be.
Et je vais ajouter sur ça, habituellement, lorsqu'on a un life insurance, c'est un contrat qui dirige life insurance. Donc, lorsqu'on a probé devant côte, lorsqu'on a un contrat qui dirige en bas, c'est un contrat que côte la bail plus valeur. Par exemple, même sous créant will, si par exemple ou avez une assurance de vie ou dit dans contrat ou quitter assurance de vie pour petit tout, mais ou créer un will après ça dans will là ou dit quitter le pont l'autre monde, c'est contrat assurance de vie qui a bien priorité et li que a bail valeur.
Thank you.
Also, I will ask everybody that's asking a question, please move a little bit closer to the mic so that way we can get your full question and people online can also hear it.
Bonsoir, thank you, merci tout le monde parce que nous t'es venu. Moi content, nous apprenons en pile. Gebara m'était content déjà, et then nous avons élaboré plus dans la langue moi content. Nous t'avons parlé de pour nous gagner un will and trust. Et then il y a 3 bagages nous t'ai discuté, nous t'ai parlé sur eux, c'était deed, si nous gagnons deed sur Kailan. And then we will need to get a right of survivorship. 3 bagages nous t'ai parlé. Et le deuxième, c'est si nous gagnons un compte, un banquier, like bank account, pour nous gagner transfer on death to get. But the third one, you guys didn't talk about it. And I think nous mentionnons life insurance, but nous pas dit qui document nous besoin pour nous capable get that.
The beneficiary. It's called a beneficiary designation form.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and you can, whoever has your policy, you just ask your agent for the form. And each company usually have their own form.
Designation. Okay.
That's right.
Deuxième question, Mbapkembe nous long. Concernant conservatorship là, nous mentionnons, let's say nous gagnons a member of our family qui suffer mental illness.
Yes.
He cannot make decision for
That's-
himself.
That's a perfect
How can we
reason.
get something like that? Say avec nous pour nous.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, you can vin parler avec moi, but yes, conservatorship and guardianship, we use that tool for mental health all the time.
Okay.
And sometimes it's hard because the mentally ill person, pas comprendre, right? They don't ever agree that they have mental health,
Because
right?
even though we are like guardian,
Exactly.
per se,
Yes.
but there's a lot
You're
of
not
things they want
appointed.
him to make decisions,
Exactly.
and he can't even make the decision.
And that's the problem. So then when he goes to get treatment, he say, I don't want to talk to her, right? Because he's upset with you. I have a brother. I deal with that all the time. And so most of the time, if you come to the attorney, we'll kind of help understand what the situation is and then help you make your case to the court. And understand that the court is very familiar. They do this all the time. So they understand it. When they send the evaluator out there, they understand that the person's going to say, I don't like them. They do all these bad things. They understand it. So don't let that stop you. Still do it if you need to do it for that person.
We definitely need to. So
Okay.
we need to reach out to you.
Please
Thank you,
do.
guys.
Thank you.
You guys are great because some information we didn't know, especially me, I didn't know. So I learned a lot. So I have two questions. The first one, I would like to know if a family can have trust and will together.
OK, en bonne question. So, si vous gagnez en trust, right? En trust, là, nous fait un paquet, nous fait un bagage qui relève pour over will. Pour over will, li ensemble avec un trust, parce que vous connaissez, premier bagage, nous pas voulons pour famille aller dans court si un bagage arrive avant, right? Nous pas voulons, si vous seulement gagnez un will, la still gain pour yo aller dans court, la still gain temps pour yo recevoir ça ou quitter. So, là ou gain yo ensemble, c'est celle-là, après ou fait trust là, si vous connaissez gain un bagage ou te recevoir, mais ou pas même connaît Watson te quitté en caille pour, li te quitté l'argent pour. Pour over will vle di, si m'ge un bagay que m'pat mette dans trust là, mais m'vle pour me recevoir pour li partager avec bénéficiaire moi yo, ou ka utiliser pour over will ça pour aller dans court, recevoir ça Watson te quitté et puis nous mettre le back dans trust là. Mais si vous avez un trust, you usually ou pas besoin en will parce que vous avez un partager tout bagay, ou avez dit gens vous voulez yo aller, so ou pas besoin yo de. OK? Generally, j'en vais penser ou pas besoin yo de. Mais nous still yes, si vous avez mettre tout bagay, même si Watson dit m'gain ça c'est adresse là, m'a quitté pour et puis m'gain information. Ou ka mettre ça dans trust ou ka get ça dit, gain yo kai, moun dit y a quitté pour moi et puis pas besoin will at all. Mais si vous avez un trust, that's it, ou pas besoin will. Seulement si c'est un bagay là ou get à passer. Famille trustee kounya connaît yon bagay un moun quitté pour y a pour aller, OK? So pas besoin yo de ensemble.
Okay. That's my second question. Okay. Si m'gen un ami krelem, li di li gen plusieurs kay dans New York, mais si moun yo gen ambition, le yo lel mouri pour yo just family. Est-ce que si m'gen un kay, est-ce que nan trust là ou bien m'ta dit I don't want to sell it. They keep it for next generation, for grandchildren. Est-ce que ça?
Exactly. Ça c'est plus bon bagay avec un trust.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Listen.
Just repeat it in English? Okay. So I think the question was, if you have a house and you want to make sure that the kids don't just get the house and sell it as soon as you pass away, what should you do? The trust is the best tool for that, because in the trust you can specify when the house can be sold, if the house can be sold, and how they can benefit from it. You can say if you can say each child get a chance to utilize that house, or they all receive rental income, and then when they pass away, or if they don't want to manage it anymore, then it goes to the grandkids, and then it goes to their kids. Okay, so that's exactly why you would have a trust.
Merci bien. Pour pas te connaître si tu as un gros panel haïtien concernant la communauté. Pas te connaître. Moi toujours. C'est toujours question que j'ai posée qui moun pour moi si je connais un office là en Atlanta mais je ne connais pas si tout le monde ça yo haïtien qui parle langue moi et
ça sont petit calme parce que ça gagne plus toujours.
Merci bien. Bon, moi je comprends ça, c'est bien ça. Pour me connaître, c'est un je ne connais pas si tout haïtien est entré dans l'or comme ça. Je ne connais ça. Je connais ça. Et question moi c'est pour Baudelaire Lévy. C'est pour Medicare et Medicaid. Que moi toujours à faire confusion entre Medicare et Medicaid. Je toujours pas de connaître ça Medicare, ça Medicaid. Mais cependant, moi j'ai une confidence que moi je connais que Medicare une fois que vous gagnez l'âge, depuis vous retirez, vous pas travailler encore, IRS automatiquement prend comme sur vous pour capable ou Medicare. C'est pas vrai? Est-ce que c'est clair?
Continuez, ma prophétie.
Moi pas même connais que pour moi je connais ce bagage qui me gagne à vie. C'est tout étonnant que moi, la semaine passée, peut-être que je vois quelques formes pour remplir, je ne pas remplir, mais moi, je coupe. Je ne connais pas si je peux couper Medicare. Je ne connais pas parce que je ne connais pas si je forme de réinstaller, je ne connais pas. Pour moi, je connais ce bagage qui me gagne. Boss, je vais couper pour un mois jusqu'à ce que je réinstalle. Est-ce que vous avez une lumière sur ça avant de la deuxième partie?
Oui, ok, bon, en clarification. Medicare, c'est assurance que le gouvernement fédéral là, il met des programmes d'assurance pour les gens qui ont 65 ans ou bien ont un handicap, disability. Son médical ou bien un handicap mental, ou bien des gens qui gagnent qui ont dialysis après un temps ou bien gagner Medicare. C'est assurance que lié. Ça va parler à toute assurance gagne un premium qu'on paye. Elle dit pas gagne pas qu'on bagaille qui free vraiment. Ou gagne doit pas payer directement mais gon monde qui paye. Moun puis fort moun les pas gagne 65 ans, les gagne 65 ans. Depuis où tu travailles dans le pays ici, on dit comme ça que gagne deux parties dans Medicare, partie A, partie B. Partie A c'est partie l'hôpital là. Si vous travaillez ici, vous travaillez 10 ans, vous dit on année gain 4 quarters, 10 par 4 bon 40, bon 40 quarters. Donc vous dit pas plutôt payer premium A encore, vous waive li. Et vous prend l'argent déjà parce que chaque fois prend l'argent dans 5K. Hein? They got the money, so vous dit comme ça que ou pas payer. Et si on ne pas travailler 10 ans, vous doit boire à moitié. Et si vous ne travaillez pas du tout, vous va toujours prendre l'assurance, on va payer $505. Ça veut dire qu'on premium. C'est partie A. Partie B, premium partie B, c'est $174 l'année, ça. $144,90, bien 60, comme ça. Et vous avez besoin de toucher premium quand même. Si vous avez touché social, sécurité dans le main, vous prendre depuis en l'air, après vous avez reste là-bas où? Quand il y a si que ou ta vle, il y a voyé bill là-bas ou la caillou tout. Vous tout dit comme ça voyé l'agence sociale sécurité directement, pas moyen li, il dit sans problème, la voyé bill là-bas ou chaque 3 mois on payer. Il y a besoin chaque quarter qu'on a envoyé l'argent en bas yo. Elle dit gon premium qui paye. Quand il y a un monde qui gagne Medicaid qui qualifié pour Medicaid, elle dit grand pile stipulation que l'État gagne un programme ça, c'est un programme à part pour moun yo garder si ça ou gagne finance est-ce que lui permet que vous capable vivre. On a là regarder que si vous pas gagne assez ou bien si pas gagne trop assez, yo dit OK, n'a pas au Medicare, n'a pas rentrer dans le programme ça. Donc moun qui gagne et Medicare et Medicaid là, bien souvent, il dit OK, ou pas besoin de payer un premium part B, n'a payé le vous. Parce que c'est ça qui fait partie du programme. Il dit, les conseils voient tout l'argent social là-bas qu'on y a ou pas payer par BIA, qu'on y a Medicaid demandé chaque année faut voyer information pour dire est-ce que si une situation pas changé, si une situation changé ou pas parce que y a besoin qu'on ait. On a une seule fois on pile l'argent qui rentre, yo pas de connaît, yo dit voyer information qu'on y a sous pas voyer information yo. Il a dit désolé puisque nous pas recevoir information yo, n'a coupé Medicaid là. Mais Medicaid là toujours, c'est juste premium dans Koulia que Medicaid te kon aide avec l'IA, li soudo Koulia. Donc ou besoin comme ça parce que vous pouvez commencer à payer $74 ça chaque mois. Si vous pas de compte ça, vous commencez à prendre la social sécurité. Mais souvent, vous pas couper Medicare parce que partie A déjà payé, vous wave pour. La partie B, il y a juste prendre l'argent ou recevoir moins l'argent dans la social sécurité. Mais vous pas mettre à zéro net parce que son assurance de santé jusqu'à ce qu'on mourit. Et vous connaissez ça, vous réglez que pas de monde qui vraiment vivre plus que 15 ans après 65. Donc, bon, petit calme. Alors, son calcul, il fait. Ils font un calcul, ils disent comme ça que puis faut monde n'a pas une assurance pour 15 ans, leur fin retire va mourir anyway. So n'a pas ça, pour qu'un ça, mais yo pas retirer à moins que c'est ou même qui t'a cancellé et y a pénalisé pour ça.
OK. Ça mais c'est ça dit ça m'est clair, c'est que c'est Medicaid, c'est pas Medicare.
C'est pas Medicare, Medicaid.
Comme c'est pas tout le temps non, c'est dit quoi pour expliquer. Deuxième, ça, vous avez dit que ce monde c'est non, quoi c'est si vous avez un Medicaid ou bien Medicare tout, non, pas quoi il y a en train de faire Medicaid. Il y a dans 40 tout, ça veut dire que c'est un amount qu'on pas de gain, c'est pas vrai? Parce que sous gain en banque ça veut dire que au cas prendre soin de tout ou est-ce que ça nous doit faire sous gonti monnaie là est-ce que c'est pour aller retirer lui chercher un côté pour mettre lui parce que sans ça ou après quoi ça ou pas ouais
capable de faire un appointment avec un avocat Judina il y en a avocat ça yo il est capable de dire qu'il y a avocat taxe surtout il a dit qu'on est qui ça pas moi pas un avocat pas capable legal advice.
Alors, c'est qui moi pour me parler avec ça? C'est qui
avocat parler.
OK, avec OK, n'a pas sur ça.
Parler avocat.
OK. Moi bon, c'est moi féliciter nous et pour le travail qu'on a fait dans la communauté. C'est bien ça.
Thank you.
Merci.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Question me gagne deux questions. Si me gagne un trust et puis quand moi listed as an asset, and I decide to sell the house, do I need to go back and amend the trust?
Well, it depends on what type of trust. If you have the living trust, the revocable trust. Oh, I'm sorry. It depends on what type of trust you have. If you have the revocable trust, which is one that you can keep changing, right, as long as you have the capacity or as long as you're alive, you don't have to amend the trust. It's called a Schedule A, right? And if you put it in the trust, when you sell it, it won't be there anymore, but you will want to update that Schedule A. Now, if you have some terms in the trust that talks about you want $30,000 to go for education or something like that, you may need to amend the trust to maybe put another asset there to take care of that plan for the children or whatever it is that you have. Okay. So it just depends on the situation. Maybe just have a consultation with an attorney, and then we can tell you if you need to amend it or how to move forward. Okay.
So my parents, they are in their late 70s. Nous avons fait process pour nous faire un trust pour papi. Wow, ils sont mariés. So nous avons un avocat, nous prenons un vol à New York. Nous avons un avocat, ils avons mis des deposits. So, là, je retourne à Georgia 2 jours, il dit, on ne va pas faire encore. Il dit, il ne va pas faire encore. So my concern is, let's say my mom or my dad gets sick and they have to go in a long-term care facility. So they have the money in the bank, they have the house, so they have to utilize their income and also sell the house, or am I responsible to pay for them to stay at the long-term care facility?
Well, ça va faire, si li dit li pa vle rien, c'est ça nous te gen te parler de guardianship avec conservatorship là. Yo lava ou yo dans New York?
New York.
New York. So c'est ça nous parler de en façon de ça, c'est ça qui a passé dans New York. Parce que faut qu'on y a ou fait un guardianship, so faut yo fait une décision. Est-ce que li gen the capacity pour faire décision ça yo, parce que si c'est un bagay li besoin et puis li dit m'pa faire or li pa take the steps necessary pour li faire li, faut aller pour ou gen guardian nan ça a fait kounya ou ka faire décision yo pour utiliser ça li gen ou pas besoin utiliser l'argent pa. Right. So, là où joindre pouvoir dans mes juges là, dans mes l'État pour qu'à now faire des décisions yo, ou utiliser ça li gagne même si c'est Medicaid, si li gagne l'argent dans banque li, c'est ça y a utilisé et puis ou qu'à faire décision yo, mais si li dit non et puis li pas gagne capacité parce que si médical dit li besoin ça puis li pas vle, then you will have to go through the court process.
No, they are healthy.
In New
I'm
York.
just concerned if something happens.
They just don't want to do it. You're saying if something happens.
If something happens.
So right now,
Yeah.
it's just kind of up to them. You can't force them to get the plan in place, unfortunately. But we already know what's going to happen. Something's going to happen, and then you're going to be the one responsible. You don't have to use your own resources, but a lot of times, family members end up having to use their resources until they can get access to mom and dad's resources. So maybe that's what you need to share with them. That's going to be a lot of burden on me, and I may not be able to afford to pay for whatever needs to be done. So we really need to get this done.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Nous disons merci pour toute information. Et question gagnée, nous te parlé de bank account pour gain transfer on death or pay on death account. So m'gen quelques monde la kay moi qui vini dans Biden qui fait cap travail à l'ouvrir account pour yo, même moun sa yo tant que gen ça c'est madame yo Haïti ou bien mari yo Haïti. So dans cas ça qui moun pour nous mettre dans account là pour est-ce que moun pi ka mettre madame ni qui Haïti ou bien OK. Et si on bagay rive sous lito et puis moun madame ni pas gen visa pour venir, est-ce que la style ka joindre l'argent?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. So since you're the one helping him, he can put whoever he want to receive the money, like his wife, on there, and then if something happens to him, you might be the one to be the administrator to send the wife the money when it's time.
Okay, so I can go get the money and send the money to them.
Yes, if that's what needs to happen.
Yes.
He might want to give it to you. So
does she need to be named in that though?
Yes,
Why would they give her the money?
So I think the question was, if it's a POD, can he list his wife who's in Haiti? You can list whoever you want to, right? But what I'm saying is, if he passes away without a will, she might need to be the one to petition the court to get access to that money to send it to the wife.
I got you. Now she has to go to court.
Yeah.
But can she also be put on that pay on death document to say she's not receiving it or some type of, there's no way to do that?
No, if it's POD, it's going to go to the wife, and usually you have to put the wife's name, information, address, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying if he wants to make sure that it gets there, because how would the wife?
Now, the only thing, top D, and again, it's a level of confiance. Si li get confiance nan ou même, ke wa fè sa li di pou fè, li ka fè pay on death nan non pa ou, et puis il get confiance wap voyel bay madame nan. That's easier. Même ba konè ou pa vle moun nan kwe ou dil sa. No, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Ou pa vle moun nan kwe ou dil sa parce que ou vle. Mais parce que li vle mette non madame li sa la di, si li mette non madame li kounya nou na parler de probate court.
Yeah.
Kounya fò wale nan court. Si li pa fè yon nan bagay nou te parler de, la prale nan probate court. Le wale nan probate court, wap di mais Canel Bank là, mais ça li te getan di, li vle pour aller by madame li pas là. Même gen information madame nan, parce que wap mette ça dans papier court yo.
Exactly.
Les juges là, ouais, les juges l'a approuvé. L'a dit oui, ou ka voyer le ba madame nan. C'est là ça. Là où recevoir l'argent dans mes banque là parce que wap ba yo papier juge là, c'est là ça wap joindre l'argent pour voyer ba madame nan. So it is a big process and let l'argent laguer parce que dans probate, m'pa connais si nous te dit ça, mais dans probate, l'argent qui yo utilisé pour pay the filing fee, pour payer avocat, pour payer n'importe expenses, c'est l'argent ou quitté. C'est l'argent ça y a utilisé, OK? So si vous payez dans avance, vous avez pour payer the filing fees and bagay sa yo. C'est après juge la signé pour recevoir l'argent dans mes canal banque là, c'est là ça y a payé avant. So ça ou te, payer pour mail, faut mettre tout ça là pour yo ka payer l'argent back et puis vous voyez reste là-bas, madame là.
And you probably don't want to put your name on it because if something happens to you, remember we talked about that? Your family's not going to know that, right? And then that's where it become a problem. Okay?
Okay. My second question is, m genyen ti moun ki nan high school, yon gen 15 ans, yon gen 18 ans, qui rentre dans Biden mais qui pas gen assurance. Tako Medicaid pas répondre pour bayo assurance, pour monsieur mener ti moun nan ka docteur, pour yeux, pour dents, comment ka fait gen assurance pour ti moun ça? Pour payer pour assurance.
Est-ce que parents yo là?
Non, parents yo pas là.
Alors c'est vous même qui
Moi-même qui responsable yo.
You can obtain a guardianship. So people get guardianships for that reason in the probate court. You don't have to go through the family court. It's a lot easier through the probate court. But you just let them know that you have the kids. You have to show evidence like they live with you, feed them. Papi Biden, or that they're going to school, And if you provide all that stuff with your case, you could get appointed and you could take those papers to go apply for insurance, or Medicaid, or whatever they need.
And very likely will be peach care. Medicaid.
Peach care, yeah.
So you'll be able to get peach care, mais you'll probably garder comme on fait. Mais qui pas un problème. Il pas payer en pile vraiment parce que peach care pas. Il pas zéro, mais il pas payer. It's nominal.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
James, o caixa juste there.
Coach James, come up front, Coach James. Yes.
One immigration part and the question you had the first one about those people from the Biden ones. I know you may not want to do the POD, but what you have to know is when you bring those people over, you actually take responsibility for them. And if they die, you're responsible for the funeral, for all the stuff. So I don't think it wouldn't be a great thing to put a wife from Haiti on any asset they have because you want to be able to have those assets if they get sick, if they die, or you be stuck.
James, si ça en créole, s'il vous plaît.
So, nous devons dire pour mon Biden, du fait que c'est vous-même qui vous cherchez, et dans l'immigration, application, vous prenez responsable pour vous-même. So, si vous avez comme dans une petite banque, ou bien un account, vous êtes supposé mettre non sur les mêmes comme POD qui est responsable si on va arriver. Parce que POD dit, moi, je mourir. So, si vous mourrez, funeral is on you, tout bagage sous compte pas. Maintenant, you don't want to pouvoir aller dans probate, pour chercher Coblan, pour voir Haïti. When c'est un funeral pour faire, and you have all kind of expenses. So, until you settle themselves to be fully responsible, anything they're doing, you ought to be the beneficiary because you have the responsibility of them. I wanted to add that.
James, can you introduce yourself, please, so everyone know who you are? Just
I
briefly.
think everyone here knows me. I am James.
For the people on YouTube.
Oh, for the people on YouTube.
We're on streaming.
I know, my name is James. I work in this community. I'm a certified financial planner. I do all business consulting. And I love all these amazing people from Fiducia and Elmasi Joseph and Associates. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my honorary little brother.
I'll be quick. My question has to do with tax filing. Is there a difference between filing married jointly or married separate?
Absolutely. So the difference is if you file married jointly versus filing married separately, for example, you'll qualify for a different standard deduction, right? So if you file, so the standard deduction is the amount that you won't have to pay any taxes on. So depending on your tax status, which for example in your case would be married jointly or married separately, the government gives you a certain amount of money which you won't have to pay taxes on that from your income. Now, if you filing jointly, your tax deduction will essentially double since you're filing with your spouse. So let's say, for example, your regular standard deduction as a single person or as a married filing jointly person would be $13,000. If you file married filing jointly, then you'll essentially have $26,000 in deduction. So generally, when you're married, unless there's some external circumstances, I usually recommend clients that they file married filing jointly since there's much more tax benefits which they can take advantage of.
Ok, m'a dit nous merci pour le panéliste qui vient là. Question m'a posée là, c'est en créole lié. D'ailleurs, même mon cap suivi online, mon qui l'a pour comprendre bien. Il y a plusieurs questions. Première question, nous avons parlé, nous avons briefly mentionné community state avec, nous avons dit joint Tennessee avec Georgia. Quelle différence il y a entre, nous pas tellement parler de community state là, de Florida. Quelle différence il y a Georgia, Florida, dans joint Tennessee, conservative là avec community. Allez plus en détail, dans le monde qui sur Florida, qui a quitté le monde, il y a autant de différences là. Allez, première question maintenant.
OK. So, pour joint tenancy, so si vous mariez et puis vous achetez un caille, dans Georgia, ça lui explique, dans Georgia, vous avez un joint tenancy, mais vous pas arrêter là. Si vous avez joint tenancy, ça veut dire nous achetons ensemble, non nous deux sous caille là, faut still get moyo qui dit right of survivorship. For mosa yo sou did la pou yo ka konen ou vle. Si yon moun yo, mari ou madame, yo passe tout kay la se pou lot la ki rete. OK? Ça c'est dans Georgia. Mais dans Florida ou pas besoin mette ça, même si did la pas dit right of survivorship parce que Jean Florida Welly si vous mariez ou achetez un caille, et puis non, nous, sous caille là, yo traité comme ça automatically, yo dit joint tenancies, si on moun rete, après on moun passe, ça c'est pour moun nan.
OK, nous attendons. Deuxième question, nous avons un client, il habite Florida, OK? Il est marié avec un monde. Bon, le mariage n'a pas marché, à cause de la situation qu'on a là, il va divorcer. Il vient de Georgia pas trop longtemps, il croise une dame, il aurait aimé, il a habité ensemble. On est là, il est dans le processus pour l'acheter caille. Il a acheté caille avec dame dans Georgia. Parce que caille ça l'a pas acheté, ça qu'on parle avec une dame là. Est-ce que dame Florida a un rapport pour avec caille là acheté Georgia?
You're still married.
And he wants to buy a
No, he's married. He's legally married in Florida, but does not live with the wife. Has not filed for divorce yet, but yet is buying a house in Georgia with a girlfriend. Now, does the wife, suppose he buys under the conservatorship, then he has a will, can that wife legally come after if he's still alive? Still have people to shoot.
The wife can, and that is ruled by the family law, right? Divorce laws. So right now we're still legally married. She's going to make the argument that while we were married, you purchased this new property. Yeah. I want access to it. I'm entitled to it because we were still married for this many years. You care for me. I get X money. You know, she's going to make those arguments, right?
Correct.
The joint tenancy thing that I was trying to highlight is, let's say you buy a property together, or let's say you already had a property before coming to the marriage, right? And then you add them to the deed. And you say, and it says joint tenancy. Well, 50% is mine, and 50% is his. So my 50% doesn't automatically go to him just because we were married in
Yes,
Georgia.
in Georgia,
Maybe
correct.
in Florida, if it's a community property state, then it would automatically, because that would be considered community property at that point, right?
Yeah.
And the things that you're looking at is, did we both pay for the property? Did we both manage the property? Did we both live in the property? Did we raise our kids? So there's different factors you're looking at to make the argument about marital property or non-marital property. But I know that new wife is going to make the argument that, in my mind, we're still married and we're together, so that's my asset.
Yeah, I consult with an attorney at the same office where I'm at.
Mhm.
Literally, they say, we'll sit an attorney and say, well, instead of Georgia, I'm not an attorney.
Yep.
If he can just show that that was his money,
yeah,
he left the house, she has no part of it is his money, technically she cannot go after it.
She can go. So this is always the key, okay? They can always go after her.
Yeah.
You can never stop someone from causing trouble, okay? Will they prevail? You'll have a strong argument as to why, right? But again, we don't know what she's going to present. Okay? So that they also look at that too, because then she might say, well, we were still married. I didn't know about this extramarital affair. And even if it wasn't an affair, right? Even if you've been separated for 10 years, in Georgia, there is, just because you don't live with the person doesn't mean that you're divorced. You have to legally be divorced.
Correct.
So she may make the argument that there's an extramarital affair, and the judge will consider those things when talking about splitting assets. Okay?
All right, my third question is this. I deal with a lot of clients that doesn't have a permanent immigration status. So you don't need to have a permanent residency to be a homeowner. You can buy as the several immigration category. Let's use one of the popular ones among the Haitian community, TPS. There's people here at temporary status. There's no guarantee, there's no guarantee they'll be living in the United States. So what are the laws that protect them? Because a lot of them are hesitant to pursue homeownership in the States as well. TPS m'gen, bakon si black renouvelé, bakon ki si loi ka changer, I don't think that's going to happen, but qui sa m'gen, c'est match ton kay, gouvernement dit, OK, tout moun ki de TPS yo, nou pa renouvelé, y bon lettre de déportation. M'gen gen 4-5 acheté ka aux États-Unis. So, qui sa m'ka fait at some point? M'konnen avec de chose là. Qui sa m'ka fait at some point si yo déporté moi, m'pa vle vendre kay là, m'konnen gen chose. Qui sa m'ka fait? Qui sa de protection m'ka fait? Kounya là pour protéger. À partir des choses là, c'est gon l'autre ba m'ka fait encore.
Well, I would just say this. I get that all the time, right? Just because you're non-citizen, right, or if you end up getting deported, that does not have anything to do with your inheritance or what you're entitled to or what you own. So it's still yours, okay? So, I would always, of course, recommend doing a trust, but if you haven't done one, that's just because you end up going back to Haiti or wherever you go back to, that's not going to stop you from having ownership to your property.
Avocat dit un bagay dit qu'on c'est le estate plan en Haïti. Qui ça est-ce qu'on réciproque ici qui ka travail? Si nous que mal Haïti m'gen bien, m'pa vle vendre ni, OK, m'gen bon, si m'ka ki to administrer, m'ka font papier Haïti, réciproque pour administrer, c'est gérer bien pour moi.
Okay, I don't know if I caught. You were saying, si ou gen, si ou ale back na Haiti, en Haiti, est-ce que gen un papier ou ka fait pour ka gérer bien ou gen là dans États-Unis?
Oui, si m'ka gérer, si m'ka gérer bien les États-Unis, m'a prêté un monde pour mon vendre transaction.
Oui, OK, oui. Oui.
Si m'ka gon monde qui fait transaction pour me show mon transférer comme là pour moi.
Oui, so loi, the federal law and also state laws dit, ou pas besoin en citizen pour ou acheter bagay pour gain assets or anything in the United States. However, faut gain parce que ou dit on zami pour just faire un zami fait. Ça li te dit les on moun te mande question. Contrat est-ce que ou fait l'autre bayo, the other steps pour faire si moun n'a pas just prendre l'argent faire n'importe bagay avec. Parce que qui gens you're going to prosecute that. Qui gens va faire the court know m'te bay moun l'argent ça pour yo acheter un terre pour moi. Si vous mettez l'autre non en l'autre moun, li te dit ça et puis m'te dili dans créole. Moun pas gain any reason, même si vous te parlé sur téléphone ou dit ça. Si non on moun son bagay, faut tout moun connaît. It doesn't matter ça ou te parlé. les lois weli, si li ale devant juge, ap gade qui non sou li, et puis moun sa gen tout pouvoir, ok? Mais si ou nan Haïti, et puis ou te là, ou te gen nan États-Unis, ou te acheté un bagay, that's still for you. It doesn't matter n'importe quel côté ou ale. That will still be yours. You can rent it, you can do whatever you want with it. Ça c'est pour ou, okay? Si ou mouri, then for un moun, fait un probate pour yo ka access ça, but it will still be yours. Not being here doesn't make a difference. And also, for just connaît, n'importe moun qui non son bagay, c'est moun sa ka recevoir.
I just want to interrupt real quick before everyone heads out. I do have light refreshments in the conference room, so grab something before you leave. And I also want to acknowledge a couple of our sponsors. I want to acknowledge Helga for partnering up with this event. Also Hannah, Dr. Dorothy, partner up. Acopia Home Loans. We have DOR Insurance. And we have our Tamara right here. I really appreciate G-Shack for giving us this space to curate this conversation. This conversation was needed, and I look forward to having several conversations throughout the year as we are getting more information and more knowledge to kind of help us plan for today and protect for tomorrow, okay? Thank you all.
Question online?
I think you answered it already. Go ahead.
Hello, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Mon nom c'est Nestlé. Ça me donne à connaître combien de ça a coûté pour open un trust ou un will.
Bless you.
Well, I usually do a consultation. Oh, sorry, I keep doing that. I usually do a consultation, like venir and parler avec moi, and then I can tell you a prix, because I don't know how much work or what you need right now. So you might think you need a trust, but you might not need one. Yeah. Okay. So I first have to talk to you, and then we can talk about a price. Okay?
Thank you.
C'est même bagay pour moi tout.
Qui est-ce qui a coûté plus cher pour me gagner? Un trust ou bien un will en général? Qui est-ce qui est plus facile pour gérer?
A trust is usually
Un
going to
trust
cost
a pi cher parce qu'un trust by police bénéfice pour lui. But m'dit ça, but I have to say that with a caveat. Pour faire papier, pour faire transaction, mais si vous seulement avez un will, c'est ça qui a plus cher plus tard pour famille et puis faut songer c'est l'argent pas où y a utilisé. L'argent ça a été quitté, c'est ça y a utilisé. So, si vous voulez demander question and you want the real answer, c'est un will qui plus cher après parce que faut you still aller dans court, faut you still payer avocat et puis y a gain temps. So, if they owe anything, or if there's any obligations you'll gain, you'll pas qu'à toucher l'argent jusqu'à ce que tout bagay fini, et puis c'est l'argent ça y a utilisé pour faire li. So at the back end, somewhere, un avocat qui do probates and all that in court, c'est ça qui plus cher. Mais pour papier yo transaction, c'est un will right now that will be more expensive.
Pay now or pay later.
Yeah, pay
more later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pay now or your family will pay later.
Yes,
Exactly.
now or later. Now, le me fait un trust avec ou un avocat. Est-ce que son gars aurait moins payé once it's done or son gars moins payé periodically?
Okay, so le wap,
Gérer le pour moi.
oui, c'est un seul bagay. Le ou fait li ou paye en seule fois. Mais si bagay yo change, we say at least every 2 years or big things happen, okay? And that's just maintenance. Si c'est un bagay kap chanje, so si ou pat gen kay, le nou te fink feli, or te get seulement gen yon sel kay, le nou te fink feli, ou te paye for the trust and everything that was done. Mais si un bagay rive, wap relem pou di, gen bagay ki chanje, m'achete te, gen, I win the, I got a settlement, gen yon pil l'argent ki vini, m'ble pou gérer l'argent sa, m'ble, an bagay, et puis we just relay, et puis we do an amendment, or we update it. So that's just maintenance costs. Mais ou paye en seul fois pour créer the trust package itself.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for everything, all the presentation. My question, I've been married for 19 years, and right when we got married, we got a 20-year term insurance. and is about to be is about to expire. So how can I transfer that to a long term?
Okay, that's a great question. So, if you don't mind, who's your term policy with? That's the number one
And they
question.
religiously take the money out of my account every month.
So the first thing I'll look at is what conversion options you have with that policy. If you're able to renew with them, that might be a better option than you starting a brand new policy, because you might have to get underwritten all over again, which, depending on health background and conditions, might be very expensive. But if you convert that current policy, you may be able to save your eligibility and get a better rate for what you want. And also see if they have a permanent insurance option if in their warehouse, so you can just transfer some of that coverage or face amount to a permanent policy within them. But starting with a new company, it'd be better fit if you want that relationship with your agent, which sounds like it would be a good idea since you haven't heard from them in 20 years. So, right, that might be a good option for you to see if we can convert some of that amount to a new policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to make Fritz the last question.
I got a
then
question.
We'll wrap up.
Guess I could be a little messy about it generally. Because this happens a lot. I see it happens a lot in Miami, at least. When I was embedded in the Haitian community. So I'm say it in Creole, and hopefully I can understand why I translate in English. So this is for the attorneys, Jadina, Miss Lady here. The question is,
Why you gotta be for Jadine? Why gotta be for Jadine?
Well, you know, she's kind of special. You know. It's biased. It's biased. It's biased. It's biased. It's my wife. A lot of times in the Haitian community, one of the things I've seen a lot is that Haitians get married, right? And then they separate. They do not divorce. So Haitien yo marié, mais yo séparé, mais yo pas divorcé. Et puis nèg la quitté comme si la allait Georgia, femme la arrêté Miami. Femme la fin fait petite avec un autre garçon, mais il pas marié garçon. Après petit temps, femme la li vinn mourir. Mais ti moun yo grandi, mais il pas jamais divorcé. Konya nèg la été marié avec mais il pas jamais divorcé. Konya il apprend femme la mourir et puis femme la te gen kay. Et puis femme la te gen l'argent. Et puis te gen l'autre asset. Qu'on a livré dans l'argent. Ti moun yo qui pas connaît nèg la parce que yo ça papa yo dit non pas ka manyen l'argent, nous pas même connaît qui est souillé. So in that sense, is that husband, can he touch that money? Is he afforded some type of rights to the house, to the account, because they never divorced? What's the process and how do you avoid that? So if I asked it in English, I think everybody understand the question. Okay.
Okay. Well, I know there's a little bit of bias, but I'm going to get started, okay? Just a little bit. Well, I will say, particularly here in Georgia, if in the statute it says if there was any action of divorce or if there was a separation for a certain length of time, right? And we have case law determining that. Usually it's about 5 years. So if you can make that argument, because I'm actually litigating a case just like that right now. Not just Haitian people, okay? It's a lot of people. They never believed in divorce. The woman got remarried 3 or 4 times, and the husband got married 2 or 3 times. Then they ended up back together at some point right before she died. So there's all these marriages we're dealing with. But at the end, she did live with him for over 15 years. So, of course, my argument is they lived together. He claimed her as a beneficiary. She was on his insurance. We have evidence like when he received his pension, she was treated as the spouse, right? So you're looking at those kind of evidentiary things. As far as the property specifically, if his name wasn't on that property, then of course I would make a similar argument. And I'm sure there's case law in Florida. Same thing to say, hey, if they were separated a period of time, whatever. Now, legally, yes, you have to be legally divorced, right? And that's the counter argument that they're trying to make. But the kids can also make an argument to say, I never knew this man. My father, whatever. I don't know if she married the father, because sometimes they do get remarried. They just never got an official divorce. So all of those would be factors in making that argument before the judge, but at the end of the day, the judge is going to make that final decision, okay? Can he have access to the property here in Georgia? If he's, like I said, it's not a community property state, so if she owned that property, it was just her name on that property, and dying, and if she died intestate, he would legally be entitled to it, but we'd establish that argument, like I said, where they weren't together for X period of time. Therefore, there was anticipation of divorce, and more than likely, I'm going to win. I'm going to tell you that right now. But if it's in another state, I can't guarantee what the law says, and maybe you can.
So generally, ça l'idée is accurate. Parce que kounya faut aller devant juge, faut faire argument pour dire est-ce que it depends on qui boye. Si ou sous boa ou vle pour yo kwe, nous pas marier mais bon nèg la. N'a juste parlé pour bon nèg la. Leli fait argument yo y a dit parce que in Florida and I think Georgia too, they don't accept pour ou marier multiple people, right? So ça wap dit li pat en mariage vraiment. C'est ça l'a dit. L'autre mariage pat en mariage vraiment. C'est nous-mêmes qui t'es mariés. So si ou t'es marié et puis li gen l'autre ti moun, faut yo couper moitié. Si li if he successfully argue, li pa prend tout, mais ti moun yo fâché parce que faut ti moun yo bay même si te gen l'autre nèg et pas l'autre nèg là. C'est Maria avec nouveau ti moun yo k'ap séparé sa maman te quitté. OK? Te gen l'autre bagay m'pat vle bliye pour nous couvrir just generally, but we could go on. But for that, that's what it was. No, that's fine. Okay. That's fine. So y a coupé moitié. Dans ça ti moun yo avec Maria. So it's better pour nous divorcer.
So make sure you
pour
divorce.
ba yo clean. Vous voulez pour ba yo clean, pour ba gen question, pour ba gen bataille.
Even if you file it, because I've had situations where they filed and then they died before it was complete. Especially when COVID was happening, a lot of people filed, but things got stuck in the court. The filing itself allowed them to not be able to take into the estate.
Yes.
So that's very important. Filing it is very important.
Thank you so much to our speakers. Once again, I appreciate you all for collaborating with me and being here this evening. Thank you, GSHAC, for giving us this space to have this conversation. Thank you to the chambers for helping us facilitate this. It is a conversation that's well needed in our community. As a real estate professional, it's always my goal to help my clients after the transaction, and these are the people that help us after the transaction and securing your asset afterwards. So if there's a need for real estate advice or additional services to these people, please reach out to me. Once again, my name is Naomi Tassy, and I am your real estate advisor here in the Atlanta area. Thank you once again.
Thank you for coming.
Please grab some refreshments before you leave, okay?
This is awesome.